Chapter 399. Back off. Just when the guards and generals of Qi were about to surround Xiao Pingyu with their sabers and swords in hand, a dignified voice sounded. Guanzhong stepped forward from the crowd of the state of Qi. Looking at the enraged guards and generals of the state of Qi, he berated, "All of you, put away your weapons and leave." Guanzhong was the prime minister of Qi, and he had great prestige amongst the ministers of the state of Qi. The furious generals and guards of the state of Qi did not dare to disobey. They all glared at Xia Pingan, put away their weapons, and hurriedly retreated. At this moment, Guanzhong was really afraid that Chao Emo would do something rash. On the other hand, on the side of Lu's state, everyone was dumbfounded. The emperors and courtiers didn't know what to do. Some of them were flurried while others were embarrassed. They didn't know whether they should stand on Chao Mo's side or scold him. Xia Pingan took a look at Guanzhong and praised him inwardly. Guanzhong is really sensible and considerate of the overall situation. At this moment, it's not a good idea to irritate a desperado who is holding a dagger against Duke Huan of Qi's back. If I irritate him, I might stab a hole in Duke Huan of Qi's back. Everyone fixed their eyes on Xia Pingan. Holding the ruler of a country hostage with a dagger in front of everyone during the vassal conference was something that had never happened before. Chao Emo was truly audacious. Duke Huan of Qi was experienced. At this moment, although his face was livid, he didn't look too flurried. He even turned around and took a look at Xia Pingan, asking, "Chao Emo, what do you want?" "Duke Huan, don't you know what I want?" Xia Pingan looked around and swept his gaze across the faces of the Lu Kingdom's monarchs and courtiers. Generously, he said, "The state of Qi is powerful, while the state of Lu is weak. The state of Qi has sent troops to invade the borders of the state of Lu several times, invading the cities of the state of Lu and disturbing the peace of the state of Lu. Duke Zhuang can't even sleep well. Once the treaty is signed, the city walls of the state of Lu will collapse and fall on the border of the state of Qi. It's too much to bully the weak like this." Qi Hengong gritted his teeth and clenched his fist. He was silent for 2 seconds. "What if I don't consider it?" Xia Pingan grinned as he slightly exerted his strength against the dagger on Qi Hengong's back, causing the dagger to pierce through Qi Hengong's clothes. "Hengong, you have to be prepared to be hit by my vital Qi and vitality." What did that mean? Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Realizing that no one around him was laughing, Xia Pingan secretly curled his lip. He was so humorous, but no one around him could understand. It was too lonely. Qi Hengong was also stunned. Was he prepared to be hit by this guy's vital energy and vitality? What Chao Emo said sounded weird, but the feeling of having a knife on his back made Qi Hengong understand that Chao Emo probably meant that he wanted to use his knife to assassinate him and make him bleed within 5 steps. Before Qi Hengong could say anything, Guanzhong became a bit anxious as he kept winking at Qi Hengong. Qi Hengong deliberated for 2 seconds. Looking at Xia Pingan's fearless face and resolute eyes, his throat moved. Finally, he sighed and said, "Fine, I'll return all the lands that the kingdom of Qi had occupied and promise not to invade the kingdom of Lu in the future. Is that okay?" The moment Qi Hengong finished his words, Xia Pingan directly threw away the dagger in his hand with a clang. Under the gazes of numerous people, he walked down the platform and calmly returned to the ranks of the officials of the kingdom of Lu. Numerous guards and generals of the kingdom of Qi stared at Xia Pingan with their hands on the hilts of their swords. They wished they could rush over and chop Xia Pingan into meat paste. Qi Hengong also glared fiercely at Xia Pingan and clenched his fists tightly. Ever since he became the monarch of Qi Kingdom, Qi Hengong had never suffered such humiliation. He was actually forced by an ignorant man with a knife to sign a treaty during the meeting of the alliance, and even wanted to return the land of Lu Kingdom that he had swallowed? The atmosphere at the scene was as tense as a steel plate. They were waiting for Qi Hengong's order to kill Xia Pingan on the spot. The officials of the kingdom of Lu were all trembling with fear. At this critical moment, Guanzhong stood up and said in a deep voice, "This is the end of the conference. Everyone, go back." Qi Hengong stood up stiffly from the platform. Without saying a word, he turned around and left. Seeing Qi Hengong leave, the officials and guards of the kingdom of Qi also followed him out of the conference. After the people of the kingdom of Qi left, Lu Zhuanggong walked down from the platform as if he was stepping on clouds. He came to Xia Pingan with a complicated look in his eyes. "Minister Chao, what should we do? If the kingdom of Qi sends troops to take revenge, how can the kingdom of Lu resist?" "Your Majesty, don't worry. I don't think the kingdom of Qi will send troops to take revenge. Instead, they will keep their promise. If the kingdom of Qi really sends troops, Your Majesty can cut off my head, cut out my heart and liver, grind my bones to dust, and send someone to give them to Qi Hengong." When the officials of the kingdom of Lu heard Xia Pingan's words, they were speechless. No matter what, Xia Pingan had risked his life to fight for the dignity and land of the kingdom of Lu. That bastard Chao Emo has gone too far, too far. When have I ever suffered such a loss? To think that I have to send troops to destroy the kingdom of Lu. Then, I will cut that bastard Chao Emo into pieces, grind his bones, and scatter his ashes. In the tent of the kingdom of Qi, Qi Hengong found it hard to swallow his resentment. He flew into a rage and smashed everything in the tent. After raging for a while, Qi Hengong found that Guanzhong was just standing in the tent without saying a word. He calmed down a little. "I want to destroy the kingdom of Lu. Does Father Zhong have any good ideas?" "Your Majesty, destroying the kingdom of Lu is only temporary. After that, you will lose your trust in the world. You will be ridiculed and despised by the vassals. It will be hard to redeem yourself. Father Zhong, do you mean that we should just let it go?" Guanzhong sighed and said with a little melancholy, "I didn't expect that the kingdom of Lu would have such a valiant and decisive person like Chao Emo who dared to hold Your Majesty hostage during the alliance meeting. Previously, Chao Emo led the kingdom of Lu and lost 3 battles against the army of the kingdom of Qi. I somewhat underestimated him. His courage alone is enough to fight against a country. Chao Emo of the kingdom of Lu is not done yet. This is the will of the heavens. Defying the will of the heavens is a disaster, not a blessing. It seems that the kingdom of Lu should not be destroyed by the kingdom of Qi. Your Majesty, please keep your promise and return the land of the kingdom of Lu to the kingdom of Lu. His courage alone is enough to fight against a country." Qi Hengong stood in a daze for a moment. After pondering for a while, he could only sigh and pinch his nose. The world of the realm pearl was shattered in the secret chamber. Xia Pingan opened his eyes again. Once again, the fusion was perfect. He looked at the time and found that only 7 minutes had passed since the fusion of the realm pearl was completed. The upper limit of the divine power in the secret mandala had now become 6,218 points. The assassin he could summon had also changed from a level 2 assassin to a level 3 assassin. The relief sculpture of the assassin in the temple expanded once again. There was an additional image of Chao Emo holding Qi Hengong hostage on the relief sculpture. The assassin in the relief sculpture was shrouded in black mist and was faintly discernible. It was even more unpredictable. A level 3 assassin could already deal with most of the mid-level and low-level summoners, because most of the summoners were below the 3-sun realm. If he fused with another assassin realm pearl, then the level 3 assassin would become a dragon-slaying assassin. That flame rhinoceros fellow was an outstanding assassin, and specialized in eating the assassin bowl of rice. The assassin realm pearl he had fused with was only 4, which could summon a dragon-slaying assassin. Xia Pingan had a deep understanding of the power of a dragon-slaying assassin. That day in Shangjing City, he himself was almost killed by the dragon-slaying assassin summoned by Flame Rhinoceros Fellow. Advancing to the 6th Sun Realm required 6,930 points of divine power. At the moment, he still needed 712 points of divine power to reach the sixth sun realm. After calming down slightly, Xia Pingan took out the second realm pearl and fused with it in one go. This was another divine power realm pearl. There were only 4 Xiaozhuan characters on the realm pearl: unstoppable. This divine power realm pearl was about how the Jin dynasty's army, led by Du Yu, helped Emperor Wu of Jin conquer the Wu kingdom and unify the country. This realm pearl was not difficult to fuse with. He only needed to make a decision at the crucial moment and resolutely attack the Wu kingdom. Unstoppable was about how the West Jin dynasty conquered the Wu kingdom. Xia Pingan took less than half an hour to fuse with this realm pearl. He took out the third realm pearl. There were only 2 Xiaozhuan characters on the realm pearl: tiger prop. Behind the tiger prop, there was a faint shadow of a ferocious tiger. This rare realm pearl was probably a black box realm pearl. Very few people were able to fuse with it. No one knew what kind of spell one would obtain after fusing with it. However, Xia Pingan knew that the so-called tiger bracing was actually one of the outfits worn by ancient Chinese doctors. The origin of the word tiger bracing could be traced back to the medical sage Sun Simiao. The doctors of later generations carried the tiger bracing on their bodies, and it gradually became an item that indicated their identity as a doctor. After holding the realm pearl and pondering for a moment, Xia Pingan dripped a drop of blood on the realm pearl. Soon, his entire body was surrounded by a cocoon of light again. Chapter 400. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a nearly 2-meter-long tiger blocking the narrow mountain path in front of him. The weeds around the mountain path were waist-high, and the surrounding forest was deep and secluded. There were birds chirping and insects chirping, but there was no one around. The tiger stared at Xia Pingan and walked toward Xia Pingan step by step. When ordinary people saw such a scene, they would probably turn around and run away. Or they might even take off their carrying poles to protect themselves. If they were capable, they might even kill this ferocious tiger. Who would have thought that this realm pearl's mission would be so strange? By the way, Xia Pingan was carrying a medicine basket on his back, which contained a lot of herbs he had picked from the mountains and climbing tools. At this moment, Xia Pingan was Sun Simiao, who was picking herbs in the mountains. When Xia Pingan saw the tiger, he breathed a sigh of relief. The scene in front of him was similar to what he had imagined. Dr. Sun had really treated a tiger and kept it as a mount and pet. As the saying went, all things had spirit. When a dog was in danger, it could go to the police station to ask the police to save its child. When a fox had a tick on its body, it would run to the hospital to find a doctor to treat it. After a person saved an injured owl, the owl would return the favor by sending a dead rat to the person every day. These were all real things that Xia Pingan had seen on Earth. Then, the tiger in front of him encountered a problem it could not solve and came to a doctor like Sun Simiao to become Sun Simiao's mount in the future. Ayo! The tiger slowly walked over and made a muffled roar unique to wild beasts. It did not seem aggressive, and kept shaking its head and wagging its tail at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan smiled and asked directly, "You want me to treat your illness?" The tiger nodded and then opened its mouth at Xia Pingan. A fishy smell wafted over. Xia Pingan took a look and saw that there was a sharp animal bone stuck in the tiger's mouth near its throat. The place where the sharp animal bone had pierced was still bleeding, and some of the blood had started to fester. No matter how fierce the king of beasts in the mountains was, it could do nothing in the face of such an injury. It could only seek help from humans. "Well, open your mouth and don't move." The tiger understood, nodded, and opened its mouth. This realm pearl was the tiger bracing, so naturally, it did not need this tool. The tiger bracing was actually a tool invented by Sun Simiao to perform oral surgery on tigers. Later on, it gradually evolved into the symbol of a doctor. Later on, when doctors went around the streets to treat people, according to etiquette, They could not shout and show off, so they changed the tiger bracing to a bell. When the tiger bracing rang, it meant that a doctor had come. Xia Pingan looked at himself and found that there was only a medicine hoe in his hand. He put down the medicine basket on his back and looked inside. Sure enough, he found a curved iron hook in the medicine basket. The iron hook should be one of the tools that Sun Simiao asked a blacksmith to make for climbing up the mountain. The iron hook was a bit like a curved sickle. One end of the iron hook was a bit sharp and the other end was connected to a rope. When climbing up the mountain, the iron hook could be hooked to trees or rocks to facilitate climbing. Xia Pingan untied the rope on the iron hook and grabbed the two sections of the iron hook with both hands. With a sudden force, the originally curved iron hook slowly closed and turned into the shape of an iron ring. The size of the iron ring was just right to be placed in the tiger's mouth and completely opened its mouth. He did not have to worry about the tiger biting his hand off when he reached in to take the bone. A real doctor should be benevolent and have benevolent skills. Xia Pingan put the iron ring in the tiger's mouth and stuck it between the upper and lower fangs of the tiger's mouth. The tiger's mouth was opened and it could not bite down. Only then did he reach out and put half of his arm into the tiger's throat. He took out the sharp bone that pierced the tiger's throat and threw it aside. Then, Xia Pingan took out the iron ring that opened the tiger's mouth from the tiger's mouth, and the tiger was suddenly free. Okay, it's done. I'll treat your illness today. You must not hurt anyone in the future. The tiger nodded and stretched out its head to rub Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan carried the basket on his back and looked at the iron hook in his hand. He smiled and muttered to himself, I knew it. How could it be a shoulder pole? How could a doctor carry a shoulder pole when he went into the mountains to pick herbs? He's not a woodcutter. What's more, there's no such big metal ring on the shoulder pole, only a wooden tip. The first legend that Xia Pingan heard about the tiger pole was that Sun Simiao used the iron ring on the shoulder pole that he used to pick herbs in the mountains to make the first tiger pole. At that time, Xia Pingan doubted the authenticity of this legend. First of all, a famous doctor who went into the mountains to pick herbs was not suitable for carrying a shoulder pole. He was not a woodcutter. Ordinary doctors would carry baskets on their back. Second of all, the tiger's mouth was so big that there was no corresponding metal ring on the shoulder pole to support it. Those who said that there was such a big metal ring on the shoulder pole had probably never carried a shoulder pole before and imagined it out of thin air. This realm pearl could be considered to have solved a small doubt in Xia Pingan's heart. The first tiger pole was modified from the mountain climbing tools that Sun Simiao used to pick herbs in the mountains. This made sense. Sun Simiao was very careful about the tools that he used to pick herbs. In some legends, in order to extract the strange medicine, Wulingzi, from the cliffs and cliffs, Sun Simiao was the first person to put a bamboo tube on the outer layer of the rope as a protective layer to prevent the rope from being broken by the rocks or eaten by the insects and beasts under the cliffs and cliffs. Xia Pingan went down the mountain. The tiger that he had just saved did not run away. It actually rubbed against him and followed him down the mountain. Will you follow me in the future? Xia Pingan asked the tiger. The ferocious tiger actually nodded. Xia Pingan laughed and the world of the realm pearl suddenly shattered. This realm pearl was really easy to fuse. It took less than 10 minutes from start to finish. After fusing with this realm pearl, the upper limit of divine power in Xia Pingan's secret mandala reached 6,275 points. At the same time, a black iron sculpture appeared in the secret mandala's shrine. The pattern on the black iron sculpture was the story of how Sun Simiao made a tiger pole to cure the tiger's illness and took its bone to subdue it. The round tiger pole on the sculpture was the summoning slot of this realm pearl. Looking at this strange summoning slot, Xia Pingan was stunned. Could this summoning slot be used to summon a tiger pole? What's the use of it? He injected a bit of divine power into the summoning slot. After sensing the function of the summoning slot, He was stunned. This summoning slot was indeed used to summon a tiger pole. It was just that the usage of this spell was too strange. The tiger poles that could be summoned could be big, small, or many. Its function was to restrain monsters and prevent them from being bitten. If a monster opened its mouth to bite you, within a certain distance, as long as the monster opened its mouth, a tiger pole would be summoned, and the tiger pole would be able to prop up the monster's mouth and prevent it from biting you. In the secret chamber, Xia Pingon suddenly opened his eyes. It had only been a few minutes since he fused with the third realm pearl. When he thought of the funny scene of a monster being propped up by a tiger pole and unable to close its mouth, Xia Pingon couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Thank you, Medicine King Reverend Sun, for leaving such a strange realm pearl for the summoners." Chapter 401. 3 days later, in the undying sea, the sunlight in the sky shone on the sparkling and crystalline surface of the sea. The blue surface of the sea was like a deep blue gem, exceptionally deep. A school of flying fish with wings leaped out of the water from the waves, gliding on the surface of the sea. They were exceptionally lively, and their silver scales were dazzling under the sunlight. Because there were many summoners in the undying sea, summoners could be seen flying in the dark blue sky from time to time, like seagulls fishing for fish. They fell from the sky like arrows and entered the deep sea. Of course, there were also summoners occasionally breaking through the calm surface of the water, flying out of the sea and rapidly leaving. Compared to the calm surface of the sea, the bottom of the sea wasn't so calm. Instead, there were battlefields everywhere. There were many treasures in the undying sea. In the secret realms in the sea, it was said that there were divine springs for the Nether Passage realm. There were all kinds of strange beasts in the sea, such as mermen and strange insects. Those strange beasts and strange insects had boundary pearls on their bodies. There were all kinds of strange medicines in the sea, of course. There was also a special product in the sea, the soul anchoring pearl. This soul anchoring pearl was a treasure, especially for many experts who grasped the soul-splitting secret technique and could create soul tools. The soul anchoring pearl was one of the indispensable treasures when using the soul-splitting secret technique. Just as the school of flying fish flew over the surface of the sea, a black figure suddenly soared into the sky with a splash. He flew out of the sea and arrived in the sky in an instant. This was a summoner in his 40s. His face was thin, and his expression was somewhat anxious. When this summoner flew into the sky, he swept his eyes and saw 8 or 9 summoners flying towards him. Only then did he promptly fly towards those summoners. Those 8 or 9 summoners also had somewhat anxious expressions as they flew over in a hurry. "Sixth brother, I just received your message. What's the matter? You said that the situation at the bottom of the sea has changed. Did those heavenly star giant clams escape?" Among those 8 or 9 summoners flying over, one of them seemed to be the leader. He had a square face, 2 thick eyebrows, and eyes that were like copper bells. He had an extremely imposing manner. And the 6th brother was the summoner who had just flown out of the sea. The heavenly star giant clam was one of the unique creatures in the undying sea. The soul anchoring pearl that could make people go crazy came from the heavenly star giant clam in the undying sea. Big brother, those heavenly star giant clams really did run out of the cave. Someone even beat them to it and entered the giant clam's body to search for the soul-calming pearls. That 6th brother said with a strange expression. Could it be that a Nether Passage realm or energy-shaping realm summoner is trying to steal our business? They were all summoners in the Reflection realm, which was the equivalent of the 6th Sun realm. Although they had the advantage in numbers, if they were to encounter a summoner in the ethereal opening realm, they would have no choice but to accept defeat. As for summoners in the energy-shaping realm, they couldn't afford to offend them. It would be best if they could curry favor with them. 2 days ago, they had discovered some heavenly star giant clams in a hidden coral cave at the bottom of the sea. However, those heavenly star giant clams were extremely difficult to deal with. If they wanted to break open their hard shells and see if there were any soul-calming pearls inside, they would have to prepare a lot of things. One heavenly star giant clam would have to use at least one precious grand fire array to pry open its mouth. They had gone to the island to prepare all kinds of things they needed, but had the sixth brother secretly guard the cave and keep an eye on the movements of those heavenly star giant clams. Unexpectedly, they had received a message from the sixth brother, saying that the situation at the bottom of the sea had changed and that they should hurry over. These people had hurried over. It's not a nether passage realm or energy-shaping realm summoner, but a reflection realm summoner. How many people do they have? The leader asked, rubbing his hands together. He had already rolled up his sleeves and was ready to go all out. In this god-slaying bug realm, good things had to be obtained by snatching. Because they were all alone, they had suffered a lot. That was why they had slowly gathered together, calling each other brothers, and venturing into the god-slaying bug realm together. 1. The sixth brother said timidly. What? A reflection realm summoner dares to fight over our heavenly star giant clams? The big brother was shocked. Isn't he afraid that the heavenly star giant clams will swallow him? Or does he have a powerful soul weapon? That person is barehanded, and I don't see any soul weapon. He only knows a strange technique that makes those heavenly star giant clams unable to do anything to him, nor can they swallow him. I can't figure out the depth of that person's strength, so I sent a message to let everyone know. Sixth brother, you must be joking. That celestial giant clam is an old monster that has lived in the undying sea for tens of thousands of years. Its skin is rough and its flesh is thick. Although it doesn't seem to have much attack power, that thing is extremely terrifying. It can grind away all flesh and blood. Once a summoner approaches and is swallowed into its stomach, even a nether passage realm summoner will be instantly turned into a pool of pus and blood. Even a sixth sun realm summoner, even if he has some special techniques, is still underwater. Without a powerful soul item in hand, how could he deal with the celestial giant clam with his bare hands, and even enter the giant clam's body? A female summoner wearing a blue summoner's battle robe frowned as she spoke. This female summoner's figure was extremely provocative. Her face was like a hibiscus, her lips were fiery red, her almond eyes were bright, and her shoulder-length hair was short. She looked both shrewish and indescribably charming. When she spoke, her voice was like a yellow aureole, clear and beautiful. That sixth brother suddenly became anxious and hurriedly said, "Third sister, I'm not speaking nonsense. That guy is a monster. He knows a kind of technique." After deliberately approaching those heavenly star giant clams, he deliberately attracted their attention and swallowed him. However, after those heavenly star giant clams swallowed him, they couldn't close their shells and couldn't dissolve him. He then took the opportunity to search the heavenly star giant clam's stomach. Those heavenly star giant clams couldn't do anything to him. There's actually such a person? The beautiful summoner was also shocked. He can actually resist the giant clam's melting power? Is that summoner still down there? The big brother asked. Yes. Let's go down and take a look. The big brother waved his hand, and everyone rushed down towards the sea from the sky. The moment the summoners entered the water, they summoned a spherical water shield that wrapped around their bodies. Once the spherical water shield entered the sea, it became one with the seawater and couldn't be easily distinguished. The summoners seemed to be surrounded by transparent bubbles in the sea. They could also freely travel in the water, but their speed wasn't as fast as when they were in the sky. The bottom of the sea was bright and colorful. Various kinds of colorful fish swam back and forth, and there were also floating aquatic plants. The heavenly star giant clam had a huge body. After tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years of growth in the sea of the god-slaying insect realm, it had become a monster at the bottom of the sea. Ordinary heavenly star giant clams were more than 50 meters long and more than 20 meters tall. Each heavenly star giant clam was like a strangely shaped house in the sea. The thickness of the shell on one side of the heavenly star giant clam was 5 or 6 meters thick. The layers on the shell were the testimony of time. The thickness of the shell on both sides added up to more than 10 meters. Moreover, the shell of the heavenly star giant clam was incomparably hard, even harder than steel. Ordinary magical techniques couldn't even scratch the heavenly star giant clam's shell, let alone injure it. At most, they could only clean up the seaweed and aquatic plants growing on the shell. Once the shell of the heavenly star giant clam closed, ordinary magical techniques were practically useless against it. They simply couldn't injure it in the slightest. And once you approached it, its shell would slightly open, and a terrifying water arrow would be able to penetrate a summoner's armor from 100 meters away. The most frightening thing about it was the heavenly star giant clam's ability to melt flesh and blood. Once you were sucked in and the shell closed, the inside of the shell would be the most terrifying furnace of flesh and blood in the world. In the blink of an eye, you would be ground into pus and blood. Because the heavenly star giant clam was extremely difficult to deal with, even if some heavenly star giant clams had soul-anchoring pearls in their bodies, it wasn't an easy task to obtain the soul-anchoring pearls inside the heavenly star giant clam. After diving 1,000 meters into the sea, there was a large patch of fiery red coral forest. The group of people didn't look for it very much. They just flew towards the coral cave they had originally discovered. Then, they discovered some activity outside the coral cave and saw a scene that shocked them. A bald, burly man actually ran out of the open shell of a 40-meter-long, deep blue heavenly star giant clam while cursing. And the two shells of that deep blue heavenly star giant clam were truly unable to close. They were completely stuck in a huge circle flickering with golden light. After that bald, burly man ran out of the heavenly star giant clam's stomach, he waved his hand, and that metal circle that was stuck in the two shells of the heavenly star giant clam suddenly disappeared. The two shells of the heavenly star giant clam rumbled and closed once again, bringing about a turbulent underwater shock wave. The corals at the bottom of the sea within a radius of several hundred meters were shaken into pieces. Who was this guy? The surrounding summoners didn't seem to be the only ones watching. There were also a few summoners who had rushed over from the other side. They were also dumbstruck as they floated in the distance, looking at that burly man actually going in and out of the terrifying heavenly star giant clam's body. What kind of technique was that, to actually make the heavenly star giant clam's shells unable to close? No one had ever seen this kind of secret technique. This question popped up in the minds of everyone who saw this scene. Didn't they say that there were soul-anchoring pearls inside the heavenly star giant clam's body? I've already found quite a few, why haven't I found any? The person who was cursing and stroking his bald head was precisely Xia Pingan, who had come to the undying sea from Immortal City. As a man who truly grasped the mysteries of the spirit realm's soul-refining secret technique, Xia Pingan actually didn't need the help of soul-anchoring pearls to refine soul tools. Soul-anchoring pearls were superfluous to him. Those so-called experts who needed the help of soul-anchoring pearls actually didn't have complete soul-splitting secret technique. They were somewhat incomplete, so they needed to rely on external objects to complete soul-splitting and soul tool refinement. Since he wanted to become a high-end talent who mastered soul tool refinement in the eyes of the 10,000 God sect, he also couldn't attract too much attention and attract the people of the Blood Demon Church. Therefore, Xia Pingan could only blend in with the dust and make himself seem more or less the same as other high-end talents who could refine soul tools. He needed the help of soul-anchoring pearls to refine soul tools. Therefore, Xia Pingan came to the Undying Sea to prepare a soul-anchoring pearl and then return to Immortal City to become a soul tool master. Chapter 402. To tell the truth, When Xia Pingon first came to the undying sea and saw the heavenly star giant clam, he was also shocked. This heavenly star giant clam was too big, just like a monster. Xia Pingon had never seen how other 7 or 8 Sun Realm summoners dealt with this heavenly star giant clam, but he had seen how other 6 Sun Realm summoners dealt with this heavenly star giant clam once. A large group of people would set up spells and arrays at the bottom of the sea, making use of the heavenly star giant clam's weakness to fire. First, they would trap the heavenly star giant clam, then heat it up. When the heavenly star giant clam couldn't stand it anymore and opened its shell, they would temporarily freeze the heavenly star giant clam's body. Then, they would use the summoned assassins to rush into the heavenly star giant clam's body and take out the soul anchoring pearl. That lineup was too big. In the beginning, Xia Pingon didn't think that the Tiger Brace spell he had just learned would be useful. At first, he just wanted to give it a try. He didn't expect that it would really be useful. The heavenly star giant clam's most terrifying ability was its ability to swallow. When the heavenly star giant clam wanted to swallow, it would open its huge shell, revealing the wave-like serrated teeth inside the shell. As long as a person or object entered within 100 meters of the heavenly star giant clam, it would be swallowed by the powerful suction force inside the heavenly star giant clam's body. It was like falling into a trap. Once the heavenly star giant clam's shell closed, it was equivalent to closing the gates of hell. It was like throwing something into a grinder. In the blink of an eye, the person or object swallowed by the heavenly star giant clam would be ground into pus and blood. And the Tiger Brace spell just happened to prevent the heavenly star giant clam's shell from closing after it opened. To Xia Pingon, this was equivalent to the heavenly star giant clam opening its own home and inviting him in as a guest. It had to be said that this operation was too flashy for the heavenly star giant clam. The heavenly star giant clam had probably never met such a person before. As soon as Xia Pingon left the body of that heavenly star giant clam was like a little girl who was bullied by a hooligan. It was like a bird that was frightened by the twang of a bow and began to flee in panic at the bottom of the sea. When the heavenly star giant clam started to run at the bottom of the sea, it caused a huge commotion. As the heavenly star giant clam fanned its shell, a huge amount of water was sucked into its body. After that, it squeezed the water and fiercely spurted it out. With the help of the reaction force of the water, the heavenly star giant clam rose from the bottom of the sea. After that, it constantly fanned its shell, sucking and spurting water. Just like that, it swayed and swam towards the distance. At first glance, its movements were a bit silly and cute, like a clumsy butterfly flying in the water. Sand and dust rose from the bottom of the sea, obscuring the sky and the earth. Seeing that heavenly star giant clam flee, Xia Pingon also hastily dodged. When he had just summoned Tiger Brace to search the body of that heavenly star giant clam, he had consumed 120 points of divine force. That was already the 5th heavenly star giant clam he had searched in the sea. He still hadn't found the soul anchoring pearl, and he had consumed a lot of divine force instead. Summoning the basic Tiger Brace only consumed 6 points of divine force. However, when Tiger Brace supported the 2 huge shells of the heavenly star giant clam, it consumed 11 points of divine force per second from Xia Pingon. The amount of divine force Tiger Brace consumed seemed to vary according to the target. As soon as Xia Pingon came out of the heavenly star giant clam's body, he discovered that there were many summoners in the surrounding seawater. Those onlookers were looking at him with astonishment. This was because they had probably never seen anyone use such a magical technique to deal with a heavenly star giant clam. Xia Pingon wasn't afraid of being surrounded by onlookers. In any case, he was currently using an alias. Moreover, this alias was set up to be able to refine soul armament. Once the news of him refining soul armament spread, it would be hard for this alias to not become famous in the Undying Sea. It was also good for him to get used to it in advance. Even someone as low-key as Chui Li might attract trouble if things went wrong. Therefore, sometimes it was better to increase his exposure and be a bit more high-profile. Who knew, he might be able to reap new rewards. As far as his eyes could see, there didn't seem to be any giant clams in the surrounding seabed. Xia Pingan was just about to change locations to find his next target when he discovered a square-faced summoner with two thick eyebrows rapidly flying towards him with a group of people. Among this group of people flying over, there was a guy who had been monitoring him all this time. However, he didn't take any action. That guy who was monitoring him left for a while, and when he returned, he was accompanied by this group of people. This group of people was a total of 9 people, both male and female. Their auras indicated that they were all 6 Sun Realm summoners. They didn't seem to be easy to deal with. The other party's intentions were unclear, and they had a large number of people. Xia Pingan's expression didn't change, but he was inwardly vigilant. He immediately slowed down his speed. Those 9 people directly flew in front of Xia Pingan and blocked his path. Xia Pingan stopped and asked, "What do you want to do by blocking my path?" "Brother, don't be nervous. We just received a message from my 6th brother. He said that there is a summoner under the sea that can deal with the celestial giant clam alone. We were all curious, so we came to take a look. Brother, your technique is really eye-opening. You can actually restrain the celestial giant clam's devouring ability. Admirable, admirable. The square-faced, thick-browed summoner should be the leader of this group." When he spoke, the others didn't speak. Seeing that this person didn't seem to be unreasonable and spoke politely, Xia Pingan relaxed a little. He cupped his hands and said, "You're too polite." It was just a fluke. The square-faced, thick-browed summoner didn't inquire about Xia Pingan's secret technique because it was a secret and taboo for summoners. He laughed heartily and said, "The 9 of us have been in the Undying Sea for many years and have settled down on the Cloud Island. We call ourselves the Cloud Island 9 Sons. We are all friends who have come here together. Because we are congenial and take care of each other, we call each other brothers and sisters. I am Feng Liu, the big brother of the 9. I am Long Huan." "Brother Long, are you looking for the soul anchoring pearl?" "That's right. Brother Long, are you looking for the soul anchoring pearl to exchange for some rare realm pearls or divine springs?" "That's not it." Xia Pingan smiled. "I want the soul anchoring pearl because I have a use for it. With the soul anchoring pearl, it will be more convenient for me to refine soul tools." The Cloud Island 9 Sons were all shocked. They looked at Xia Pingan in disbelief. Feng Liu's eyes widened and flashed. He asked directly, "Brother Long, are you a soul cultivator?" Soul cultivator was a title that some summoners gave to those who could refine soul tools. To be honest, I found a few broken jade slips in the ruins of a void secret realm. Then, I was lucky enough to learn the soul-splitting technique. My main purpose in coming to the god-slaying insect world is to find a soul-anchoring pearl and try to refine a soul tool. Xia Pingan said confidently. "That's a coincidence." Feng Liu laughed. "The 9 of us know a hidden coral cave. There are some heavenly star giant clams in that cave. Perhaps there are some soul-stabilizing pearls in those heavenly star giant clams. It's a rare chance to meet Brother Long. It's fate. If Brother Long doesn't mind, we can take Brother Long to that coral cave and let Brother Long try his luck." These people actually knew of a coral cave where the heavenly star giant clam was hidden. Xia Pingan was greatly moved and didn't decline. He laughed heartily and said boldly, "Then I thank Brother Feng and everyone for their good intentions. If we can find the soul anchoring pearl this time, I will refine 2 soul items for Brother Feng and the others for free as a reward." When Feng Liu said that he would take Xia Pingan to the coral cave, the people behind him didn't understand. They thought their big brother was being too generous. But now that they heard Xia Pingan say that if they could find a soul anchoring pearl, they couldn't help but admire Feng Liu. As expected of their big brother, a hidden coral cave in exchange for a soul cultivator's promise to craft 2 soul armaments was a profitable trade. Even if Long Huan didn't manage to find the soul anchoring pearl in the cave, he'd still owe them a favor. Now that their relationship was closer, it shouldn't be too difficult to ask Long Huan for help in the future. "Brother Long, come with us," Feng Liu said as he led Xia Pingan towards the coral forest. Xia Pingan followed closely behind. After flying for 20 kilometers, they entered the depths of the coral forest. In front of them were giant corals that were hundreds of meters tall. Where was the coral cave? Just as Xia Pingan was puzzled, he saw Feng Liu point at a scorched rock at the bottom of the sea. The scorched rock at the bottom of the sea turned into a light shadow and eventually turned into a golden triangular disc that landed on Feng Liu's hand. Below the scorched rock, there was indeed a 100-meter wide coral cave. Xia Pingan looked at the disc array in Feng Liu's hand, and his heart skipped a beat. This was the first time he had seen a summoner's disc array. He did not expect this disc array to be so miraculous, to be able to cover such a large coral cave. This coral cave was discovered by the 9 of us siblings. Because we were unable to deal with the heavenly star giant clam for the time being, we could only use this hallucinatory array disc to seal it up. Feng Liu explained and then made a gesture of invitation. "Brother Long, please." Xia Pingan didn't stand on ceremony and flew into the cave. The entrance of the coral cave wasn't big, but the deeper they went, the more spacious it became. The entire cave was filled with colorful corals and scorched rocks. There were also some glowing fish, just like the Crystal Dragon Palace. Not long after entering, Xia Pingan saw another enormous heavenly star giant clam lying on a piece of scorched rock. The star giant clam seemed to have sensed someone's arrival. Its 2 giant scallops opened slightly, ready to attack. Everyone stopped a few hundred meters away and didn't rashly approach. "Everyone, I won't stand on ceremony," Xia Pingan said to Feng Liu and the others. "Haha, we were just waiting to see Brother Long's secret method." Xia Pingan didn't say anything and directly flew towards the giant star giant clam. When he was within 100 meters, Xia Pingan threw an icicle. The icicle was just a tease. When it hit the star giant clam's shell, the icicle shattered. The skin on the star giant clam's back wasn't even broken. This disturbance infuriated the heavenly star giant clam. Seeing Xia Pingan flying over, the heavenly star giant clam fiercely opened its 2 shells and released an extremely powerful suction force. Xia Pingan, who was still in the water, was immediately swallowed into its stomach. However, just as the 2 shells of the heavenly star giant clam were about to close, a huge tiger protrusion was summoned and stuck at a key position, causing the 2 shells of the heavenly star giant clam to be unable to close. As a result, it could only freeze there. Chapter 403. There were still 7 heavenly star giant clams left in the coral cave, and this was the last one. This heavenly star giant clam was somewhat large, about 70 meters long. It was hiding in the deepest part of the coral cave, and its body was covered with underwater aquatic plants. The aquatic plants fluttered in the wind, making it look particularly demonic. Half of the heavenly star giant clam's body was buried in the sand of the seabed, while the other half of its shell was covered in a thick layer of sand. It looked like a small seabed hill. If not for the faintly discernible wave-shaped undulations on its shell, which betrayed its identity, most people would have thought that this big guy was a reef at the bottom of the sea. At some point, some summoners had come to the coral cave. Xia Pingan ignored them, and neither did Yundao Jiuzi. The other summoners didn't cause any trouble. They just watched from afar in 2s and 3s. They watched how Xia Pingan approached the heavenly star giant clam, how he was swallowed by it, and how he summoned the tiger crab to easily wander around the heavenly star giant clam's body before coming out, the onlookers exclaimed from time to time. More and more gazes were focused on Xia Pingan. Just like before, he shot an icicle, approached the heavenly star giant clam, and then calmly let the heavenly star giant clam swallow him before summoning the tiger crab. Xia Pingan was becoming more and more familiar with this process. In the blink of an eye, he entered the heavenly star giant clam's body. Holy **T. This heavenly star giant clam was somewhat strong. The divine power consumption of the tiger crab, for 1 second, had already become 14 points. As soon as Xia Pingan entered the heavenly star giant clam's body, he was slightly taken aback. He felt the divine power consumption rate in his body, and immediately perked up, seizing the time to search. The inside of the heavenly star giant clam was like the warehouse of a cargo ship that had sunk into the sea after being loaded with meat products. Xia Pingan could see thick, grayish-white meat pads soaking in the sea. Those meat pads were soft and slippery, and there was a layer of hard and sticky mucous membrane on those meat pads. At the edges of those mucous membranes there were some sparkling and translucent particles that shone like light bulbs and stars. Those particles weren't pearls, but the stars inside the heavenly star giant clam, also known as the giant clam's eyes. Those eyes of the giant clam could emit light, nourishing a strange algae growing inside its body. Those algae could be used as food for the clam's food. But once a person entered the heavenly star giant clam, he would immediately feel the algae's corrosive and toxic effect on his water shield. The heavenly star giant clam's body was giant clam's matresplendent giant clam. 10 seconds later, when Xia Pingan opened a piece of fat meat at the bottom of the heavenly star giant clam's shell, a faint blue light penetrated through that layer of mucous membrane inside the heavenly star giant clam's body and entered Xia Pingan's eyes. Xia Pingan became spirited as he immediately opened that layer of mucous membrane. Below that layer of mucous membrane, a fist-sized brilliant blue pearl was wrapped in a translucent flesh cocoon. Soul-stabilizing pearl. This was a soul-stabilizing pearl. A blue soul-stabilizing pearl was unique. At the sight of that soul-stabilizing pearl, Xia Pingan rapidly summoned a long sword and cut open that translucent flesh cocoon with a slashing sound. He then took the soul-stabilizing pearl in his hand. The moment the soul-stabilizing pearl came out of the flesh cocoon, the entire seawater inside the giant clam's body turned brilliant blue like a dream. Soul-stabilizing pearl, he found it. In the coral cave outside the heavenly star giant clam, the onlookers exclaimed when they saw a brilliant blue light blossom from the heavenly star giant clam's open shell. Although that blue light flashed and disappeared, it still dyed a large area of the seawater outside the heavenly star giant clam blue. The onlookers were all summoners, so they immediately discovered that this was the sign of a soul-stabilizing pearl. Soul-stabilizing pearl. It must be the soul-stabilizing pearl. Amidst the onlookers' exclamations, Xia Pingan's figure flashed out from the crack in the heavenly star giant clam's shell. Then, with a wave of his hand, the tiger braces that were holding the heavenly star giant clam up disappeared. The two pieces of the heavenly star giant clam's shell closed with a loud bang like muffled thunder, causing the seawater to surge. "Hurry up and leave." Feng Liuyu's complexion changed as he shouted at Xia Pingan. Then, he turned around and hurriedly flew out of the coral cave. The other 9 sons of the Cloud Island also hurriedly followed him. At this time, the other onlookers didn't dare to stay any longer. One by one, they hurriedly turned around and flew out of the cave. Xia Pingan naturally wouldn't stay either. This was because he had previously heard that once a heavenly star giant clam with a soul-stabilizing pearl inside its body discovered that its soul-stabilizing pearl had been taken away, it would go crazy. A crazy heavenly star giant clam was very frightening. Rumble, Xia Pingon had just flown more than 100 meters away when he heard a muffled thunder-like sound coming from behind him. Sure enough, that heavenly star giant clam had discovered that its soul-stabilizing pearl had been taken away. Its two shells suddenly opened to the maximum and then closed together, just like two iron mountains fiercely colliding together at the bottom of the sea. In the blink of an eye, the terrifying water pressure was like a shock wave produced by a depth charge thrown into the deep sea. The corals and reefs in the coral cave were instantly pulverized by the water pressure and shock wave. The inside of the coral cave suddenly turned turbid and dark. Xia Pingon fell behind. When the shock wave came into contact with his water shield, that water shield suddenly shattered as if it had been smashed by a 10,000-ton hammer. That huge force suddenly exploded on Xia Pingon's back. The magician robe on Xia Pingon's body was instantly torn apart. He tasted something sweet in his throat and almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, Xia Pingon was already prepared. Moreover, his body was tough enough. When the first water shield was shattered, he had already summoned a second water shield. That huge force pushed Xia Pingon towards the front of the heavenly star giant clam. All of a sudden, Xia Pingon increased his speed. Xia Pingon summoned Xuanwu and directly lay on Xuanwu's back, rushing towards the surface of the sea. Xuanwu was a water god. Don't be fooled by his slow movements on land. In the water, his speed and agility were simply inconceivable. Terrifying high-pressure and underwater shock waves constantly came from behind, destroying the inside of the coral cave. However, they were unable to catch up with Xia Pingon. That heavenly star giant clam was incomparably angry. It moved its clumsy hill-like body and chased after Xia Pingon. Almost as soon as Xia Pingon rushed out of the coral cave behind him collapsed with a rumbling sound. That giant clam's huge figure appeared in the water, but Xia Pingon had already left it far behind. Xuanwu rushed towards the surface of the sea with Xia Pingon. A moment later, they had already rushed to the bottom of the flickering waves. Xia Pingon put away Xuanwu. With a splash, with water droplets all over his body, he soared into the sky from the surface of the sea. Success. Chapter 404. Waves rolled over and over on the surface of the sea, revealing a small part of the enormous heavenly star giant clam's body. The furious heavenly star giant clam sprayed a water column directly into the air and then scattered down, filling the sky with water droplet. Under the sunlight, they sparkled, revealing a beautiful rainbow. After tumbling on the surface of the sea, the giant clam finally unwillingly sank back into the water and left. Ha ha ha! Congratulations, Brother Long! Feng Liu and the Cloud Island 9 Scions flew over together to congratulate Xia Pingon. The summoners that had been watching the show also flew over, each of them looking at Xia Pingon with envy and jealousy. Xia Pingon was also very happy. He didn't expect to obtain a soul-anchoring pearl in the coral cave. Although the process was a bit torturous compared to the others, he obtained this soul-anchoring pearl very quickly. If everyone is ready to refine a soul armament, you can come to Undying City to find me. I, Long Huan, am a man of my word. The Cloud Island 9 Scions were naturally very envious, but they also knew that with their strength, taking down a single giant clam in the coral cave was very strenuous, let alone taking down 7 in a row. If it were them, with their movements, they would have scared off the other giant clams as soon as they took down the first giant clam. Using a 1 in 7 chance of obtaining a giant clam in exchange for the friendship of a soul master and the promise of 2 soul armaments for free, it wasn't a loss. Okay, after we've discussed and prepared, we'll definitely come find Brother Long to refine a soul armament. Feng Liu said. Crafting a soul armament required a part of the soul, and the part of the soul was the soul of the person who wanted the soul armament. Without careful preparation, Recklessly using a part of the soul to craft a soul armament could very well injure the soul of the person who wanted the soul armament. It was even possible that the person would turn into an idiot. That was why all summoners who wanted to craft soul armaments would do everything they could to find pills and treasures that could strengthen the soul and strengthen their own soul force. Only then would they dare to ask a soul summoner to craft a soul armament for them. What does the soul anchoring pearl look like? Can we take a look at it? The one who spoke was the third sister of the Cloud Island 9 Science. This is... Xia Pingan's gaze fell on the face of the woman who spoke, and he praised her in his heart. What a bold and valiant beauty. This woman's temperament reminded Xia Pingan of Feng Lingshan. This is my third sister, Lian Yuzhu, Feng Liayu said. In truth, everyone wanted to see what the soul anchoring pearl looked like, but they were too embarrassed to ask. After all, it was a treasure, and asking someone to take it out to see it was a taboo, but Lian Yusin was the one who did it. Why not? Xia Pingan smiled and took out the soul anchoring pearl. He handed it to Feng Liayu and said, "Take a look if you want. This soul anchoring pearl is indeed a treasure." At this time, the soul anchoring pearl's blue brilliance was completely restrained. It was not as dazzling as it was when it was taken from the star giant clam at the bottom of the sea. However, when the soul anchoring pearl was held in his hand, he could still see the deep blue brilliance flowing inside the pearl. The brilliance seemed to have some kind of magical power that calmed people down with a single look. Feng Liayu held the soul anchoring pearl in his hand and looked deeply at Xia Pingan. He did not expect Xia Pingan to be so generous as to hand such a precious treasure to him. He smiled playfully and said, "This is a treasure. Brother Long, aren't you afraid that I'll run away with this soul anchoring pearl?" "Haha, Brother Feng, run away if you want. It's just a soul anchoring pearl. I'll take it that I misjudged you. At most, I'll find another soul anchoring pearl myself. In life, it doesn't matter if you lose out a little." Xia Pingan said nonchalantly. "Brother Long is indeed generous." Feng Liayu laughed. "Come and take a look." The Yunshan 9 sons all gathered around. Some looked, some touched. In the blink of an eye, the soul anchoring pearl was in the hands of the Yunshan 9 sons. This soul anchoring pearl is indeed worthy of its reputation. Just by holding it in my hand, I feel that it can nourish my soul and calm my heart. Indeed, if I wear this pearl on my body, it will definitely be beneficial to my cultivation. After a round, the soul anchoring pearl returned to Feng Liayu's hand. Then, Feng Liayu smiled and solemnly returned the soul anchoring pearl to Xia Pingan. "This pearl is extremely precious. Brother Long, please keep it well." When the 9 sons of the Cloud Mountain sect were playing with the soul anchoring pearl, Xia Pingan was also secretly observing the expressions of the 9 sons of the Cloud Mountain sect. He realized that although the 9 sons of the Cloud Mountain sect were envious, the 9 of them were very gentlemanly. Their eyes were pure and without any evil intentions. After looking at it, they still returned the soul anchoring pearl. It seemed that the Yunshan 9 sons were worth befriending. Just now, if any of these 9 people harbored evil intentions, with a little bit of provocation, and then shamelessly took the tranquil soul pearl, it would have been impossible for the pearl to return to his hands. After all, they were the ones who discovered the coral cave, and at this moment the 9 of them had an absolute advantage in terms of strength. Treasures and benefits were the most important. When the soul anchoring pearl returned to Xia Pingan's hand, Xia Pingan and Feng Liayu looked at each other and laughed heartily. "It's rare that Brother Long obtained the soul anchoring pearl today. Why don't we go to the island and have a drink to congratulate Brother Long on obtaining the soul anchoring pearl?" Feng Liayu said. "Sure." Xia Pingan agreed without hesitation. "Do you think you can just leave after stealing the soul anchoring pearl of the Sea King Union? If you want to leave, then leave the soul anchoring pearl behind." A voice suddenly came from afar. Following this voice, Xia Pingan saw a large group of summoners flying over from afar and surrounding him and the Yunshan 9 sons. There were about 20 to 30 summoners flying over. Each of them was wearing the summoner's black battle mage robes. They were aggressive and had ill intentions. The leader of the summoners was a man with a thin face and slanted eyes. He carried a long sword on his back and had a cold smile on his face. His greedy eyes were locked onto Xia Pingan. Seeing these people flying over, many of the surrounding summoners hurriedly avoided them as if they were the plague. Crane Bell Rampart, what is the meaning of this? Feng Lieyu snorted angrily and took 2 steps forward. We were the ones who discovered the coral cave, and the soul anchoring pearl was obtained by Brother Long himself. It has nothing to do with the Sea King Union. Why? Is the Sea King Union planning to rob us? Sea King Union? What kind of organization was this? Xia Pingan pursed his lips. Sea King? Damn it, this organization doesn't sound like a decent organization. He glanced around and saw that these guys were basically summoners in the 6 Sun realm. Feng Lieyu, I advise you to mind your own business. Crane Bell Rampart sneered. With a wave of his hand, the summoners who came with him spread out in the air and completely surrounded Xia Pingan and the others. We also discovered the coral cave. We were preparing to organize a team to search for the soul anchoring pearl, but we didn't expect that your Cloud Island 9 sons would be 1 step ahead of us and seal the entrance with a magic array. I was just about to inform you to remove the magic array at the entrance of the coral cave, but I didn't expect you to lead this outsider into the coral cave and even snatch our soul anchoring pearl. Enough nonsense. As long as he hands over the soul anchoring pearl, we will forget about the matter of him trespassing into our Sea King Union's coral cave. Shameless! Why don't you just say that the entire undying sea belongs to you? Lian Yuzhu of the Cloud Island 9 sons cursed. The Crane Bell Rampart's obscene gaze swept over Lian Yuzhu's body as he licked his lips. Our Sea King Association is reasonable. Everyone can come to the Undying Sea, but if our Sea King Association discovers something in our territory, it won't be easy for others to take it without asking. Feng Lieyu raised his hand and signaled his brothers to calm down. His expression turned cold. This Brother Long is a friend of our Cloud Island 9 sons. Crane Bell Rampart, are you trying to rob us? The Crane Bell Rampart had a confident look on his face. Your Cloud Island 9 sons and our Sea King Society have always minded their own business. If you insist on interfering, then you'd better think it through. Can't you get past the leader of our Sea King Society? Feng Lieyu laughed maniacally when he heard the Sea King Union's union leader. We, the Cloud Island 9 sons, have always been lone travelers. We came to the god-slaying insect realm to roam the world because we are like-minded and don't want to be bullied by despicable people like you. Today, Brother Long is our friend. If we allow you to rob and bully our friend without doing anything, then what's the point of us, the Cloud Island 9 sons, gathering together? Today, I will take care of this matter. Isn't your Sea King Union's union leader at the 8 Sons realm? If he has the guts, then he can come and take my head. Someone will definitely avenge me. Big Brother is right. We will take care of this matter. If you want to bully our friend, then you can't. Another one of the 9 sons stood out. What Big Brother wants to say is also what I want to say. I'm a failure. I'm only a summoner in the reflection realm now. I'm a disgrace to my sect. If your leader is so powerful, then let him come and kill me. Someone from my sect will come and settle the score with him. One of the 9 disciples walked out and sighed. He looked like a handsome young master in a chaotic world. My Xuanji continent's Meng family is not so easy to bully. Just come. Another one of the 9 sons stood out. Ha, it is rare for all of you brothers to be so united. I naturally can't fall behind. The Cloud Island 9 sons stood out one after another. None of them backed down. This caused the Crane Bell Rampart's expression to change slightly. Summoners who were able to enter the god-slaying insect realm naturally didn't jump out of nowhere. They had their master, family, elders, and all sorts of connections. The Sea Kings Union seemed to have the upper hand now, but if they really started fighting, things would get out of hand. Even if the Sea Kings Union leader was an 8-Sun Realm summoner, the consequences would still be unpredictable. At this crucial moment, Xia Pingon laughed loudly and took 2 steps forward. Ha ha ha, I, Long Huanxin, appreciate Brother Feng and everyone's good intentions. I, Long Huanxin, will definitely befriend the Cloud Island 9 Suns. However, this matter is between me and the Sea Kings Union. Everyone, please don't interfere. Since they are coming for me, I will naturally resolve this matter. Chapter 405. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Xia Pingon. They wanted to see how he would solve the crisis in front of them. Crane Bell Rampart also narrowed his eyes and stared at Xia Pingon with a sneer on his face. He had made up his mind that no matter what, he must get his hands on the soul-anchoring pearl in Xia Pingon's hands this time. A lone traveler like Xia Pingon, who had obtained a calming soul pearl and had run into the Sea Kings Association, was a rare opportunity. Listen up. Xia Pingon coughed softly and looked at the people of the Sea King Association with a face full of confidence. You want to provoke me? Do you know where I come from? Your Sea King Association wants to dominate the Undying Sea? You're still too inexperienced. Oh, where did you come from? Why don't you tell me about it? There are plenty of people who want to put on airs after coming to the god-slaying bug realm, and we don't need another one like you. Crane Bell Rampart said. The members of the Sea Kings Association surrounding Xia Pingon all burst into laughter. Listen up, I'm a disciple of the Wan Xin sect. Does your Sea King Association dare to rob a disciple of the Wan Xin sect? After Xia Pingon finished speaking, he found that the surrounding atmosphere suddenly became quiet. Everyone was looking at him with strange eyes, including Yundao Jiuzi and Feng Liu. Those eyes were not filled with reverence, but with an indescribable strangeness. Ha ha ha! Crane Bell Rampart suddenly burst into laughter. He laughed so hard that he was about to burst into tears. I thought you had some powerful background, but it turns out that you're just a rookie who doesn't know anything. The Wan Xin sect has thousands of outer disciples in the god-slaying insect world and the Undying Sea. Do you think that the Wan Xin sect will stand up for an outer disciple? If you think so, aren't you treating the Wan Xin sect as fools and idiots? Let me tell you, kid, the rules of the Wan Xin sect is that they only care about the grudges of the official disciples. The grudges of the outer disciples are their own responsibility. The Wan Xin sect has never intervened. You're just an outer disciple of the Wan Xin sect. If you were in the Undying City, we naturally wouldn't dare to do anything to you. But since you're in the Undying Sea, don't even think about leaving if you don't hand over the soul-anchoring pearl today. Damn! Why did the Wan Xin sect have such a rule? Xia Pingon felt a little speechless. He had not been in the Wan Xin sect for long, and no one had ever told him such a thing. Damn it, the status of an outer disciple in the Wan Xin sect was too low. Brother Feng, is what he said true? Xia Pingon looked at Feng Liu, wanting to ask if what Feng Liu said was true. Feng Liu could only smile awkwardly. Ahem, yes. I heard that many people purposely joined the Wan Xin sect after getting into trouble. They wanted the Wan Xin sect to take care of them. After that, the Wan Xin sect no longer interfered with the affairs of the outer disciples. But Brother Long, don't worry, we will definitely take care of your affairs. Thank you, Brother Feng, but I'd better solve this matter myself. If the identity of an outer disciple of the Wan Xin sect is not useful, then I'll change another identity. Xia Pingon laughed loudly and still looked at the Crane Bell Rampart confidently. You must have heard of this identity of mine, and it's definitely useful. Oh, what other identity do you have? Xia Pingon said in surprise. I'm the 78th head of the shadowless divine sect. How is it? This identity is qualified, right? Crane Bell Rampart frowned. He had thought that Xia Pingon would still be able to say some background and identity that would make him fearful. However, he seemed to have never heard of this divine shadowless sect before. Presumably, it was not some impressive large sect. Shadowless divine sect. Where did this broken sect come from? I've never heard of it. It doesn't matter. You'll soon know what our divine shadowless sect does. After Xia Pingon finished speaking, he suddenly looked behind the Crane Bell Rampart and a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on his face. Master, why are you here? The Crane Bell Rampart was shocked, and the hair on his back stood up. He did not even think about it and looked behind him. The surrounding sky was empty, blue and clear, and there was not even half a shadow. Oh no, I've been fooled. When he turned his head again, he discovered that Xia Pingon's figure had already disappeared. His body was like a shooting star, and he was already close to the surface of the sea, about to rush into the sea. Xia Pingon's escape was too straightforward, and he was already prepared. Even Feng Liu and the others beside him did not have time to react. Xia Pingon's figure fell into the sea like a shooting star. Ha ha ha, your brains are not that good to be played so easily. Now you know what the shadowless divine sect does, right? Xia Pingon laughed loudly, and in the midst of his laughter, he had already dived into the sea with a poof. Damn it, Chase! The Crane Bell Rampart roared, so angry that he was about to go crazy. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, he did not expect that guy to actually dare to play with him. Moreover, he actually fell for such a low-level trick. What he did not expect even more was that this guy, who was still fearless just a moment ago, would escape so decisively without any hesitation, catching him off guard. In the blink of an eye, the members of the Sea King Association in the sky had all dived into the sea, and the Yundao Jiuzi hurriedly chased after them. As soon as the Crane Bell Rampart entered the water, he saw that Xia Pingon had already summoned a strange black fish. He was grabbing the dorsal fin of the strange fish and was rapidly swimming towards the bottom of the sea. In the blink of an eye, he had pulled a distance of over 1,000 meters away from them. Xia Pingon's speed was much faster than them in the water, and none of them could catch up. As soon as Xia Pingon entered the water, he summoned Xuanwu. Using an illusion technique, Xuanwu transformed into a strange black fish and carried Xia Pingon like a torpedo as they rapidly advanced underwater. In the blink of an eye, they had shaken off the members of the Sea King Association. Given the current situation, Xia Pingon was a 5-sun realm summoner. If he stayed on the surface, he would definitely not be a match for the Sea King Association's large group of 6-sun realm summoners. There was also the risk of losing the soul anchoring pearl. Furthermore, Feng Liu and the others were still nearby, so it would be difficult for them to sit idly by. If they made a move, it would be very easy for the Yundao Jiuzi to be involved in a confrontation with the Sea King Association. This was a situation that Xia Pingon did not want to see. Therefore, he made a prompt decision to escape. Temporarily avoiding the Sea King Association's sharp edge was the best decision. Of course, Xia Pingon could also use his identity as a soul master to incite the surrounding people to rob and kill the members of the Sea King Association. However, if he did so, the onlookers might not believe that he could refine a soul tool, and they might not be willing to immediately go to war with the Sea King because of his promise. Most of them would probably wait and see. However, the Sea King Association would definitely fight to the death with him, which was definitely not a good thing for him. Therefore, a man of character knew when to yield and when to stand tall. After some consideration, he took the initiative to leave the scene. Avoiding the enemy's sharp edge and showing weakness was not a shameful thing to do. After reaching the sea, Xuanwu dived into the seabed and began to swim. Sure enough, he quickly shook off the members of the Sea King Association. The topography of the seabed was actually the same as on land. It was ever-changing and blurry. There were mountain ranges and canyons at the bottom of the sea, and the thriving marine plants were as dense as forests on land. It was too easy to hide a person in such a complicated topography. An hour later, Xia Pingan had completely left the members of the Sea King Association behind him. Xuanwu took him and swam to a canyon at the bottom of the sea. The canyon was filled with dark green marine plants that were hundreds of meters long. The leaves of these marine plants were like silk ribbons that drifted in the water. Xia Pingan found a safe place to rest in between the crevices of the canyon's walls. He reached out his hand and cut off a leaf from one of the marine plants. He then used the one-leaf vision technique. In the blink of an eye, his entire body melted into the drifting seawater of the underwater canyon, and not a single trace of his aura was left. After staying here for more than 20 minutes, the two summoners of the Sea King Association arrived at the canyon. They searched for a while, but they didn't find anything. They didn't find any traces, so they left. Xia Pingan quietly waited in the crevices of the rock walls. A few hours later, the sky turned dark, and the sea was completely dark. There wasn't the slightest bit of light. Xia Pingan silently stayed here for a night. When the next day dawned, the waters above his head once again lit up. Xia Pingan once again ran out from his hiding place, preparing to return to the Undying City first. Xia Pingan had just drilled out of the underwater canyon when he suddenly froze. In the sea in front of him, an old man with a pair of triangular eyes and a purple-gold crown on his head was standing there, coldly looking at him. The old man had a head full of silver hair, and his body emitted a powerful and ice-cold aura, like a flood or a ferocious beast. More importantly, the old man was holding a head that was still dripping with blood. That head belonged to the Crane Bell Rampart, who had tried to rob his tranquilizing soul pearls yesterday. There was still a frightened expression on the Crane Bell Rampart's face. Not bad. You can judge the situation and avoid the enemy's attack. You can even use a secret technique to hide here for a night. Even I can't lock onto your specific position. You also have a skill in concealing your aura. Kid, you really have some skills. Damn, who is this old man? He actually killed someone from the Sea King Association, just like that. Xia Pingan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Based on his intuition, he knew that this old man didn't seem like a righteous person. Moreover, he was extremely ferocious. He was completely the kind of ruthless person who treated human lives like grass. Senior, have you mistaken me for someone else? Xia Pingan said as he slowly retreated. He was already prepared to run away once again. The old man acted as if he didn't see Xia Pingan trying to escape. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. That smile seemed kind, but it was even more frightening. The old man softened his tone a little. Are you called Long Huan? Yesterday, you used a secret technique to obtain a tranquilizing soul pearl from the body of a heavenly star giant clam? Xia Pingan was just about to run away when he suddenly realized that the seawater around him had suddenly solidified and lost its flow. His entire body was stuck in the seawater, and he couldn't move at all. This old man's strength was too terrifying. He could unknowingly immobilize Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan's heart suddenly turned cold. He quickly shouted and took out the tranquilizing soul pearl from the space warehouse. He threw it at the old man. That's right, I'm Long Huan. If Senior wants this tranquilizing soul pearl, please take it. This Junior will present it to you with both hands. The old man took the tranquilizing soul pearl and looked at it. The corners of his mouth curled up into a disdainful smile. He then threw the tranquilizing soul pearl at Xia Pingan. Who cares about a small tranquilizing soul pearl? Since you're Long Huan, I'll give you this head as a greeting gift. Come with me. After he finished speaking, the old man threw the Crane Bell Rampart's head at Xia Pingan. What was the use of a dead person's head? Xia Pingan didn't catch it. The head sank into the water. After that, the old man stretched out his hand. Xia Pinggan's body involuntarily flew towards the old man and was caught by the old man. With a flash, the old man brought Xia Pinggan towards the deep sea in the distance. Chapter 406. Xia Pinggan was completely seized by the old man and couldn't move. The old man seemed to be flying at an incredible speed at the bottom of the sea. Moreover, he was flying towards the depths of the undying sea, which made Xia Pinggan's heart jump. There were many more monsters in the undying sea than on land. If one wasn't strong enough, they wouldn't even know how they died if they ventured into the depths of the undying sea. Most of the summoners who came to the undying sea would only move around near the islands. Only summoners in the Nether Passage realm and above would gradually try to go deeper into the undying sea. As the old man flew through the sea, Xia Pinggan saw many strange sea beasts. These sea beasts were as big as hills and as small as millstones. There were all kinds of strange colors and shape. Xia Pinggan saw a shark that was over 50 meters long. There was also a huge sea snake that was so thick that it would take 2 people to wrap their arms around it. As it swam in the sea, there were already horns on its head and small claws on its body. It looked as if it was about to transform into a dragon. There were also all kinds of strange creatures in the sea. It was too much for the eyes to take in. However, no matter how terrifying the sea creatures looked, when the old man approached, they were like frightened rabbits. They all ran away. The old man's aura was enough to make the sea creatures feel fear. Xia Pinggan felt as if he had entered a marine museum. Under the old man's guidance, he toured the bottom of the undying sea. A few hours later, the old man brought Xia Pinggan to a stop at the bottom of the sea. At the bottom of the sea in front of Xia Pinggan, there was an even larger heavenly star giant clam hiding in an enormous coral reef. Previously, Xia Pinggan had thought that the heavenly star giant clam he had encountered in the coral cave was already big enough. He hadn't expected that the heavenly star giant clam in front of him would be even bigger. This heavenly star giant clam was over 200 meters long. Its back was covered with countless blood-red corals that looked like small hills. I heard that you can use a secret technique to enter the body of a heavenly star giant clam and not die. Show it to me. The old man let go of Xia Pinggan and pointed at the heavenly star giant clam on the seabed. Senior, this heavenly star giant clam is too big and too strong. I'm afraid that my secret technique won't be able to withstand it. I'll die as soon as I enter. Xia Pinggan carefully pretended to be pitiful as he spoke. So what if he dies? It's a waste of food for useless people to live. The old man coldly glanced at Xia Pinggan, and the words he spoke were ice-cold and heartless. Your current life is mine, so you have 2 choices now. Do you want to go over yourself, or do you want me to throw you over? Xia Pinggan laughed dryly. I don't know you, senior. Since when did my life become senior's? I'm a fair person. Didn't I give you the head of that person from the Sea King Association? That's in exchange for your life. A life for a life. Xia Pinggan was dumbfounded. I didn't agree. It doesn't matter whether you agree or not. It's fine as long as I agree. As the old man spoke, his triangular eyes widened. He didn't seem to move, but he just pointed at Xia Pinggan, and Xia Pinggan felt that his body was involuntarily grabbed by a huge force. Then, like a ball, he flew directly toward the heavenly star giant clam. The old man pointed at the heavenly star giant clam again, and a bolt of lightning flew out from his finger and struck the heavenly star giant clam. The heavenly star giant clam's originally silent body suddenly trembled, as if it was enraged. Its huge shell suddenly opened, causing the earth to shake and the mountains to shake, stirring up the surrounding seawater. Before the heavenly star giant clam could swallow, Xia Pinggan was directly thrown into its mouth by the old man. Xia Pinggan felt the light above his head darken, and the huge water pressure came from all directions. He knew that things weren't good, and without thinking, he immediately summoned the tiger brace to hold up the heavenly star giant clam's huge shell. Not far from the heavenly star giant clam, the strange old man watched as Xia Pingon was thrown into the heavenly star giant clam's mouth. Just as the heavenly star giant clam's two shells were about to close, a golden light flashed, and the tiger brace that Xia Pingon had summoned appeared. It just happened to hold up the heavenly star giant clam's two huge shells, preventing the heavenly star giant clam's shells from closing. When the old man saw this scene, his eyes immediately lit up. A divine light flashed in his eyes, and no one knew what he was thinking. The tiger brace held up the heavenly star giant clam's shells that were about to close. Under the huge pressure of this heavenly star giant clam, Xia Pingon's consumption of divine energy per second had already increased to 37 points. Xia Pingon felt that the divine energy in his body was rapidly being consumed like flowing water. Xia Pingon didn't even think before rushing towards the heavenly star giant clam's body. But just as Xia Pingon was about to turn around, he suddenly heard the old man's cold and emotionless voice. "You're not allowed to come out. Let me see how long you can last in there. If you dare to come out, next time I'll tie your hands and feet and fix your body before throwing you back in. There's still a top-grade soul anchoring pearl in this heavenly star giant clam's body. Find it. There's still a top-grade soul anchoring pearl in this heavenly star giant clam's body? How did that old man know?" A thought flashed through Xia Pingon's mind. But at this time, he wouldn't doubt the old man's words. If he dared to run out now, that old man would definitely throw him back in. Xia Pingon could only grit his teeth and rapidly search inside the heavenly star giant clam's body. The heavenly star giant clam's meat cushion was too big and too thick. Just flipping up those meat cushions was somewhat strenuous. After a minute, Xia Pingon still hadn't found it. But the divine energy in the secret mandala had already exceeded 2,000 points. Xia Pingon clenched his teeth and hurriedly swallowed a Xunli Dan. After another minute, he still hadn't found it. Xia Pingon swallowed another Xunli Dan. When Xia Pingon swallowed the third Xunli Dan, he finally found it. That soul-anchoring pearl was even bigger than the one he had found before. Inside the deep blue soul-anchoring pearl, there was a misty rainbow luster flashing. This was the best quality soul-anchoring pearl. Xia Pingon quickly took that soul-anchoring pearl in his hand and then shouted outside, "Senior, I've found the soul-anchoring pearl. Can I come out now? I don't have much Xunli Dan left, I can't hold on much longer. Come out!" The old man's cold voice finally reached his ears. Xia Pingon didn't even think about it and hurriedly rushed out of the giant clam's body. After rushing out for more than 300 meters, he hurriedly withdrew the tiger cradle that he had summoned. Rumble! The two shells of the giant clam behind him finally closed. The enormous water pressure rushed over, causing the coral reefs within 100 meters of the seabed to be completely smashed. After the soul-anchoring pearl in its body was taken away, the heavenly star giant clam became furious at once. Just like the previous one, it stared at Xia Pingon and flapped its shell, causing a huge movement on the seabed. Then, it directly rushed towards Xia Pingon. The high-pressure underwater shock wave directly blasted towards Xia Pingon. That movement was earth-shaking in the sea. Xia Pingon felt that the water droplets around him were about to explode. After being blasted by that terrifying underwater shock wave, Xia Pingon tasted something sweet in his throat. Then, he couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of blood. "Senior, I've already got the soul-anchoring pearl. That heavenly star giant clam has gone crazy. Let's go." Xia Pingon finally arrived in front of that weird old man and shouted towards him in a somewhat embarrassed manner. That old man coldly glanced at Xia Pingon. Although he didn't make any move, in a split second, a tall humanoid light shadow appeared behind that old man. The humanoid figure in the light shadow was wearing an emperor's crown and a dragon robe. It carried a luxurious and dignified aura and a long sword on its waist. Seeing that terrifying heavenly star giant clam rushing towards him, the dignified emperor instantly drew out the sword on its waist and directly slashed towards that heavenly star giant clam. The moment the sword left its scabbard, it suddenly became thousands of times larger and turned into a huge sword more than 10,000 meters long. The huge sword flickered with a golden light and carried an unparalleled divine might as it descended from the sky. With only one slash, the seawater at the bottom of the sea was immediately split apart. From the bottom of the sea to the surface of the sea, a huge chasm without any seawater was formed. The waves were surging, just like a miracle. This slash directly chopped down on the extremely hard shell of that heavenly star giant clam, which was known for its defensive power. Just like cutting tofu, the star giant clam's shell, which was tens of meters thick and comparable to armor alloy, was directly cut into two by the sword from top to bottom, from head to toe, at the hardest and thickest part of the shell, and was smooth and flat. That heavenly star giant clam, which had lived at the bottom of the sea for tens of thousands of years, was directly split into two by this slash. It was killed in one slash. With a rumble, the seawater that had been split apart by this slash once again merged with a rumble. The chasm from the bottom of the sea to the surface of the sea suddenly disappeared. Only the surging seawater and the two halves of that huge heavenly star giant clam were still telling the tale of that earth-shattering attack. What kind of summoning technique was this? It was so powerful that with one slash everything was cut apart. Xia Pingan was dumbstruck and couldn't help but swallow 2 mouthfuls of saliva. At the same time, Xia Pingan also understood that the old man just now didn't really want the soul-steadying pearl when he asked him to enter the shell to look for it. It seemed that he just wanted to see Xia Pingan's ability. With this old man's strength, if he wanted the soul-steadying pearl, one slash would be enough. Only now did the old man look at Xia Pingan. His triangular eyes flickered with a chilling light. "Right, what did you say to me just now?" "Nothing, nothing." Xia Pingan laughed dryly. Then, he quickly took out the top-quality soul-steadying pearl that he had just found and offered it with both hands. He cutely said, "I've found this soul-steadying pearl. Please kindly accept it, Senior. It's just a soul-steadying pearl. I'll give it to you." That strange old man waved his hand as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Xia Pingan was immediately overjoyed. He quickly put away the top-quality soul-steadying pearl. "Many thanks, Senior." That top-quality soul-steadying pearl was very beneficial to his soul power. It could constantly nourish his soul power, making it more harmonious and easier to use. It was really a treasure. "I'll give this to you too. Swallow it." As soon as Xia Pingan finished thanking him, the strange old man showed a kind smile on his face. With a wave of his hand, Xia Pingan saw a strange golden insect appear in the old man's hand. The strange insect looked like a silkworm baby. Its whole body was shining with a golden light, and there was a blood-red line on its back. It looked a bit like a summoned creature, but there was a trace of vitality in its body that summoned creatures didn't have. Xia Pingan didn't know what it was, but looking at it made him feel a chill in his heart. Xia Pingan smiled like a harmless pet, revealing a few white teeth. "Many thanks for your concern, Senior. I'm full and don't feel like eating anything. Moreover, I'm a kind person. I've always been a vegetarian and don't eat meat. This little worm is so cute. It must be Senior's favorite. How can I bear to eat it? Please keep this cute little worm. Just tell me what you want." The old man sighed. The look in his eyes became even more benevolent. "I saw that you used a lot of divine power just now. This worm is just right for you to replenish it." Chapter 407. Xia Pingan's body was stiff and he could not move, but he could still feel the sensation in his body. As soon as the strange golden worm entered his mouth, it got up on its own. Xia Pingan felt that the strange worm quickly slid into his throat, esophagus, and then into his stomach. This feeling made Xia Pingan's hair stand on end, and all the hair on his body stood up, but he could not move. After reaching his stomach, the feeling of the strange worm seemed to have disappeared, and he could no longer feel it. Finally, after a while, his body could move again. Ugh! Xia Pingan clasped his throat, trying to spit out the strange worm, but unfortunately, except for some acid, nothing came out. The old man looked coldly at the side and did not stop him. He sneered and said, "That is the soul-snatching goo. Even if you cut open your stomach and body, you won't be able to find it." Xia Pingan wiped the corners of his mouth, straightened his back and stood up. He regained his calmness. He did not fall out with the old man, because it was meaningless. He just smiled bitterly and spread out his hands. "Senior, what do you mean? I believe that if you want to kill me, you don't have to go through so much trouble. My strength is not even enough to be pinched by your finger. Why do you have to put the goo in me? It's hard to know what's in a person's heart. If I don't put the soul-snatching goo in you, I won't be at ease." The old man spoke in a righteous manner, as if he was saying that he had added a little vinegar when eating noodles. Xia Pingan almost vomited blood. Looking at Xia Pingan's expression, the old man's expression remained unchanged. The soul-snatching goo is a means of controlling people. I'm doing this for your own good, so that you won't have other thoughts when you're with me. You think you're smart, but in the end, you'll hurt yourself and ruin my plan. You'll know slowly. As long as you do as I say, I'll definitely get rid of the soul-snatching goo for you. You'll get a lot of benefits which are better than cultivating by yourself. You join the Wanshin sect just to get some cultivation resources. As long as you're obedient and follow me, these won't be a problem." Speaking of this, the old man's expression suddenly turned cold, and his triangular eyes flashed with a cold light. "Of course, if you want to taste the taste of betraying me, you can try it now. As long as I have a thought, you'll suffer a fate worse than death." As soon as the old man finished speaking, Xia Pingan felt a sharp pain in his heart. He held his chest and his face turned pale. The blood in his heart and all over his body began to flow backward. The intense pain was like thousands of poisonous needles shuttling back and forth in his blood vessels. His head felt like it was going to explode. This process only lasted for 3 seconds, but in these 3 seconds, Xia Pingan's whole body was covered in cold sweat, his face was as white as paper, and he almost knelt down. As soon as the blood flow returned to normal, Xia Pingan gasped for breath, feeling weak all over. "I just let you taste the taste of your blood flowing backward. It seems that your body is quite tough." The old man glanced at Xia Pingan with a satisfied look and nodded. An ordinary summoner would be rolling on the ground and begging for mercy, or even be unconscious. That soul-seizing venomous insect has a bit of my vitality, so you can't escape. Even if you leave the god-slaying insect realm, I can make you suffer a fate worse than death with a thought. Furthermore, if I die, you'll also explode and die, so don't have any bad ideas, just be obedient in the future. People under the eaves had no choice but to lower their heads. This old man was ruthless and temperamental. Xia Pingan didn't know what this old man wanted him to do. After panting for a while, Xia Pingan pulled himself together and said, "I understand. What does Senior want me to do?" "You'll know later. By the way, where did you learn to make the shell of the heavenly star giant clam unable to close?" "That spell came from a realm bead that no one had fused with before. I was just trying to fuse with it, but I didn't expect it to be so inexplicably successful," Xia Pingan said. "Do you still remember the appearance of that realm bead?" "I remember." The old man nodded and didn't say anything more. "Okay, follow me." After saying that, the old man turned around and flew towards the sea. Xia Pingan clenched his teeth, and could only follow him. The old man was too fast in the water, and Xia Pingan's speed was much slower than that of the old man. In comparison, one was like a swordfish, while the other was like a tortoise. 2 minutes later, the old man was somewhat impatient. He turned his head and stretched out his hand to grab Xia Pingan. Carrying Xia Pingan, he shot up from the sea like a rocket and flew into the sky outside the sea. He stood above the clouds and then rapidly flew towards the east. Being captured by the old man's divine power, Xia Pingan only felt the white clouds under his body flying backwards, while he only felt a gentle breeze caressing his face. "How should I address you, Senior?" Xia Pingan looked for an opportunity to talk to the old man. The old man glanced at him and revealed a disdainful smile at the corner of his mouth. "What? You want to find someone to take revenge on me? Unless you can find a demigod, it's useless to find anyone below the demigod level." Xia Pingan looked sincere. "Senior's cultivation is thousands of times stronger than mine. Among the people I know, no one is a match for you. I've never thought about taking revenge. I believe that with Senior's cultivation and personality, you would disdain to lie to a small character like me. As long as I listen to Senior's words and do what Senior asks me to do, Senior will definitely not make things difficult for me." "Oh." Hearing Xia Pingan's words, the old man sized up Xia Pingan again. "You don't hate me for implanting a goo in your body?" Xia Pingan looked sincere. "I did hate you just now, but now I understand a little. I think Senior must be very experienced and have seen all kinds of sinister people. Senior implanting a goo in my body is because what Senior wants me to do is very important to Senior. Senior doesn't want to complicate matters, so you don't want me to act recklessly and use the goo as a deterrent. In this world, there are many idiots who think themselves clever. Idiots don't believe in reason and only believe in power. It's not wrong for Senior to treat me as such an idiot." A look of surprise flashed across the old man's face. He took a serious look at Xia Pingan again and said in a harsh tone, "You look like an idiot, but your mind is very clear. You can call me Immortal Mingi." Immortal Mingi took Xia Pingan to fly a few hours in the air. Below them were white clouds and the vast ocean. Xia Pingan didn't know how many miles they had flown. When Immortal Mingi took Xia Pingan through the clouds, they saw a huge and prosperous island in the ocean. The island covered over 100,000 square miles. In the center of the island, there was a lofty mountain range which looked like a crouching dragon. The mountain range was verdant and dense with vegetation. The mountain range extended all the way from the ocean to the island like a crouching dragon climbing onto the island. There was a huge and prosperous city on the island. In the distance, Xia Pingan saw some summoners flying here and there. There were also some tall and magnificent buildings on the mountain range on the island. "Is this Crouching Dragon Island?" Xia Pingan's heart was moved. During his days in the Undying City, he also understood a little about the situation in the Undying Sea. In the Undying Sea, the largest island was the Crouching Dragon Island. The Crouching Dragon Island also had the most flourishing city in the Undying Sea. When they were close to the island, Immortal Mingi slowed down a bit with Xia Pingan. Not until then did Xia Pingan hear the faint sonic boom from behind. In the blink of an eye, Immortal Mingi had taken Xia Pingan to the front of a 7-story attic on the mountain range in the island. The attic was very imposing. The steps outside the attic were all carved out of white jade. There were all kinds of strange flowers and herbs outside the attic. There was a pond in front of the attic. In the pond, 2 mermaids with pink scales and shoulder-length hair were playing in the water. The 2 mermaids who were playing in the water were beautiful. Their upper bodies were human, but their lower bodies were like carp. Seeing the 2 mermaids playing in the pond, Xia Pingan was stunned and couldn't help but take a few more glances. "Aren't they just mermaids? Haven't you seen them before?" Immortal Mingi turned his head and glanced at Xia Pingan. "Yes, I haven't seen them before. Xia Pingan smiled. Immortal Mingi directly took Xia Pingan to the attic's gate. On the gate of the attic, there were 3 large golden words, Million Treasure Hall. At the entrance of the attic, there were several armored warriors with swords in their hands. Immortal Mingi took out a black token and flashed it. Those warriors immediately opened the way for him to enter the attic. After entering the attic, another summoned beauty led Immortal Mingi and Xia Pingan to a spacious room on the top floor. She made tea and left. Then, a fat man lifted the bead curtain and walked in with a smile. Lord Styx River, we are honored by your presence. Please excuse us for not going out to meet you. The fat man was a real person, not a summoned character. It was just that his aura was obscure and it was impossible to tell his cultivation level. He only greeted Lord Styx River. As for Xia Pingan, he only glanced at him and nodded slightly with a smile. Immortal Mingi looked at Xia Pingan and ordered, "Do you still remember the divine runes on the realm pearl? Draw them." Xia Pingan didn't hesitate. He dipped his finger in the tea and drew the 2 words, Tiger Prop, on the tea table. Of course, the divine runes that Xia Pingan drew only looked similar and could be recognized. In fact, there were some mistakes. For those who didn't know Xiaozhuan, it was good enough that they could draw it. "Let me have a look at this realm pearl," Immortal Mingi directly said to the fat man who had entered the room. That fat man frowned and looked at the words that Xia Pingan had drawn on the table. Then, he nodded and said, "Please wait a moment, Immortal Mingi." The fat man left the room. After a while, he came back with a box in his hand. When the box was opened, it was the Tiger Prop realm pearl that Xia Pingan had fused with. This efficiency shocked Xia Pingan. Chapter 408. Is it this realm bead? Perfected Lord Nether River looked at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan hurriedly nodded. "Yes, it's this realm bead." The fatty chuckled at the side. "True Immortal, this realm pearl is too obscure, and it doesn't have a compatible spiritual force crystal. There have been no records of successful fusion, and the mortality rate of failed fusion is more than 30%, Xia Pingan muttered in his heart. Those who failed to fuse with this realm bead and died might have seen the tiger in the realm bead and fought with it. Then, they were killed by the tiger. How unlucky. How many of these realm beads do you have? Perfected Lord Nether River asked the fat man directly. I have 4 here. They've been accumulated over the years. The fat man answered. Okay, I'll take all of them. The fat man didn't hesitate to wave his hand after hearing Perfected Lord Nether River's words. 4 boxes containing tiger propping realm beads appeared on the table. Each box contained a tiger propping realm bead. How could there be 4 of these obscure realm beads here? This million treasure haul was too awesome. I also need a flood dragon blood soul crystal. Perfected Lord Nether River continued. The fat man didn't say a word. He waved his hand gently and another box appeared on the table. There was also a green bead in the box. This bead wasn't a realm bead, but another treasure. The bead shone brilliantly. The shadow of a blood-red flood dragon could be seen swimming in the bead. This item was obviously very valuable. Arrange it for me. 5 days later, I want to arrange a person to participate in the underwater fighting arena. Then, find me 2 demon slayer assassins. Yes. When the fat man answered, he glanced at Xia Pingan again. This made Xia Pingan's heart skip a beat. Perfected Lord Nether River was like a domineering CEO here. The fat man stood beside him and nodded submissively. Xia Pingan listened at the side and didn't know what Perfected Lord Nether River was talking about. After giving his orders, Perfected Lord Nether River waved his hand and took the realm bead and flood dragon blood soul crystal from the table. Without saying anything more, he stood up and left. Xia Pingan also left with Perfected Lord Nether River. The fat man walked Perfected Lord Nether River all the way to the entrance of the Million Treasure Hall and respectfully saw him off. Perfected Lord Nether River waved his hand and took Xia Pingan into the sky again, flying towards the southeast of the island. Senior, this million treasure haul is really amazing. 4 of such rare realm beads at once. Is this million treasure haul is your property? When they were in the sky treasure haul. Is million treasure haul. Is this treasure haul your property? No. True monarch Nether River spat out these 2 words coldly, almost killing the conversation in an instant. However, Xia Pingon was already used to it, so he didn't feel awkward and continued to chat. I saw that Senior took the realm bead and that soul crystal without paying, so I thought that it was Senior's property. Pay? Why should I pay him? I'm lacking something, so why would I come to him? If I give him face, I'm already being polite by not taking his money. How dare he ask me for money? So what if he has a mountain of gold and silver? You juniors are always so ridiculous. Ahem, Senior, you want that realm bead. Do you want to fuse with it yourself? I fused with that realm bead when I was young but didn't succeed. You'll know what I want it for later. After saying a few words, Perfected Lord Nether River didn't say anything else. Xia Pingon didn't say anything either. Perfected Lord Nether River then took Xia Pingon out of Crouching Dragon Island. After flying for over 100 miles towards the southeast of Crouching Dragon Island, they arrived at a foggy sea. Looking down from the sky, there was nothing on the sea except for the fog. Perfected Lord Nether River pointed at the sea. Closely after that, the fog on the sea dispersed. The light and shadow on the sea started to sway like a mirage. In the blink of an eye, an emerald island covering more than 10 square miles appeared. Some golden battle formation halos were slowly rotating around the island. Perfected Lord Nether River then took Xia Pingon into the air zone of the island. Xia Pingon only felt his vision blur, as if he had entered another space. Thick fog rolled around him, and within the thick fog, there were countless lightning bolts, flames, swords, icicles, as well as terrifying bone dragons and thousands of soldiers and horses. They flashed past him, and then Xia Pingon found himself in a huge cave. The atmosphere in the mountain cave was a bit gloomy. There were bronze cauldrons on both sides of the mountain cave. Pale flames were burning in the cauldrons. Perfected Lord Nether River was sitting on a black throne made of animal bones. There's a protective formation on the island. Without my permission, you're not allowed to leave the island. If you enter the formation by mistake and get killed by it, you're courting death. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Perfected Lord Nether River said to Xia Pingon. Senior, don't worry. I got it. Xia Pingon replied hurriedly. Perfected Lord Nether River nodded and flicked his finger. A jade pendant hanging in the mountain cave made a light tinkling sound. A few seconds later, 3 figures appeared in the mountain cave. One of them came out of the ground like a wisp of black smoke. He was a young man with a pale face and a thin body like a bamboo pole. The other one was like a shadow, flying close to the entrance of the mountain cave. When he entered the mountain cave, the shadow became plump and became a strong man. The third person was a little more normal. He flew in very quickly. He was a scholar wearing a blue robe. Xia Pingon looked at the aura of the 3 people and realized that they were all at the 6th Sun Realm. Based on their auras, they were all 6th Sun Realm experts, at least slightly stronger than Yan Shi. Could these 3 people be Perfected Lord Nether River's disciples? Xia Pingon muttered in his heart. When the 3 of them arrived at the mountain cave, they glanced at Xia Pingon discreetly before bowing respectfully to Perfected Lord Nether River. Greetings, Perfected Lord. The moment the 3 of them spoke, Xia Pingon knew that he had guessed wrongly. These 3 people were not Perfected Lord Nether River's disciples. If they were, they would call Perfected Lord Nether River their master. Perfected Lord Nether River nodded coldly. Without further ado, he waved his hand and 3 tiger-propping realm pearls flew toward the 3 of them. He instructed, these 3 realm pearls are a little remote. There are no spiritual force crystals. The 3 of you can try to fuse them here. The three of them took the 3 realm pearls and looked at each other. Their faces were serious. Then, without saying anything, they sat down cross-legged and dripped their blood on the tiger-propping realm pearls. They began to fuse with them. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them were enveloped by 3 light cocoons. Xia Pingan did not say a word. Perfected Lord Netherriver sat on the throne and narrowed his triangular eyes as he watched the fusing of the 3 people. 5 minutes later, the light cocoon of the scholar shattered. The scholar opened his eyes and looked puzzled. He shook his head slightly, indicating that the fusion had failed. After another minute, the light cocoon of the pale-faced man who was like a bamboo pole also shattered. The fusion had failed. After a while, the light cocoon on the burly man's body shook. Then, under everyone's gaze, the light cocoon gradually turned transparent. Some black gas appeared inside, and the burly man's figure appeared in the light cocoon. His head exploded with a bang, and his brain matter splattered everywhere. The light cocoon shattered, and the headless corpse of the burly man, who was still alive and kicking just a moment ago, swayed slightly on the ground, and then fell to the ground. The 2 summoners who failed the fusion but didn't die looked relieved, but they didn't say a word, because the burly man was dead. The gloomy cave was suddenly filled with the smell of blood. At this moment, Xia Pingan held his breath. He just watched as a 6-sun realm summoner failed to fuse with the realm pearl in front of him and had his head explode. Sometimes, death was just so insignificant. Even if it was a 6-sun realm summoner, a trace of disappointment flashed across Perfected Lord Netherriver's face. He waved his hand lightly. Leave. The 2 people who survived the test of the tiger-propping realm pearl did not say a word. After bowing, they quickly left the cave. Perfected Lord Netherriver waved his hand lightly, and a ball of flame flew out of his hand and landed on the corpse in the cave. The scorching flames licked and swayed. In the blink of an eye, the corpse was turned into ashes. Perfected Lord Netherriver waved his hand again, and a stream of water rushed out and washed away the ashes. Then, Perfected Lord Netherriver's scrutinizing gaze landed on Xia Pingan F***CK. Xia Pingan's heart was beating like a drum. He was extremely nervous. Chapter 409. Follow me. After a few seconds of silence, Lord Netherriver finally spoke. He stood up and walked towards one of the entrances of the cave. It did not feel good to be on someone's chopping block. However, Xia Pingan could only grit his teeth and follow Lord Netherriver to the other side of the cave. After walking for a few minutes in the dark cave, Xia Pingan heard the sound of waves. Then, a huge pool appeared in front of him. The pool seemed to be connected to the sea outside, and the sound of the waves came from outside the cave. The water in the pool was bottomless. An ray of sunlight shone down from the top of the cave, illuminating the water in the pool. The pool was blue and bottomless, and the blue light waves swayed slightly, causing the entire cave to flash with blue light. 5 days later, I've arranged a competition for you at the bottom of the sea to the north of Crouching Dragon Island. It's a battle of life and death in the water. Your opponent will be a ferocious merman. Mermen don't know how to use sorcery, but they are very agile in the water and are good at fighting. Your task is to kill that merman in the water without using any sorcery. If you do, you will be killed by the referee. Xia Pingan was dumbfounded. Senior, why did you make such an arrangement? You'll know when the time comes. Lord Netherriver said coldly. If I don't use sorcery, how can I compete with a merman in the water? Xia Pingan naturally knew how to swim, and he was good at it. However, he did not think that he could compete with a merman who lived in the sea. That's why I asked you to come here. Lord Netherriver took out the Flood Dragon's Blood Soul Crystal that he got from Thousands Treasure Hall and threw it to Xia Pingan. This is a Flood Dragon's Blood Soul Crystal. It's also a treasure. It's not easy for ordinary people to get it. After you eat it, It will strengthen your bones and muscles and enable you to move freely in the water without using any sorcery. You'll gain the ability to move underwater like a merman. After eating it, you'll feel hot all over. After eating it, you'll have to go into the water immediately. You can't come out of the water until you've completely digested it. Looking at the flood dragon's blood soul crystal in his hand, Xia Pingon gritted his teeth and could only swallow it. As soon as that thing was thrown into his mouth, it softened and turned into a stream of heat that spread to his limbs and bones. Xia Pingon's entire body was steaming hot. It was as if there were countless furnaces burning in his body. Even his blood was boiling. His skin was as red as a prawn in a steamer and was abnormally hot. Looking at the deep blue hole beside him, Xia Pingon quickly took off his clothes without any hesitation. Wearing only a pair of underpants, he plunged into the water, letting the seawater come into full contact with his skin. The water in the blue hole was extremely cold. After plunging into the water, Zhang Tai's body temperature dropped at once. Instead of feeling uncomfortable, he felt warm and comfortable all over. After more than 10 minutes, Xia Pingon popped his head out of the water. After taking a breath, he quickly sank back into the water. After more than 10 minutes, he popped out of the water again to take a breath. After Xia Pingon popped out of the water for the third time to take a breath and sank back into the water, Xia Pingon found that he didn't need to pop out of the water to take a breath anymore. His skin started to replace his lungs and started to exchange oxygen in the water like a fish. That was amazing. At the same time, the burning sensation inside his body became stronger and stronger. Additionally, all his bones started to feel hot and itchy. The closer he got to the bottom of the blue hole, the lower the temperature of the seawater and the greater the water pressure, the more comfortable he felt. Xia Pingon unconsciously swam towards the depths of the blue hole. As he swam, Xia Pingon found that his flexibility in the water was unparalleled. It was not his body that was driving the seawater, but his mind. As long as he thought about it, the seawater would flow around him along with his body. The seawater became familiar to him, and he didn't fear it at all. He actually felt very comfortable in the water. The blue hole became deeper and deeper. After diving several hundred meters, the entrance of the blue hole became invisible like a blurry starlight. As Xia Pingon continued to dive, the water pressure became stronger and stronger. He could even hear his bones cracking due to the terrifying water pressure, as if they were going to shatter at any time. But strangely enough, the burning and itching sensation in his bones actually became comfortable under the terrifying water pressure and was no longer uncomfortable. Xia Pingon didn't care anymore as he continued to dive until he reached the bottom, which was over 10,000 meters deep. He found that there were 2 bowl-sized sea eyes at the bottom of the blue hole. Additionally, the seawater at the bottom of the blue hole had already frozen. After sneaking here, Xia Pingon sat on a large piece of ice and felt his entire body completely comfortable. Although there was still a burning and itchy feeling in his body, it was already bearable. F***ck, am I still human? It's impossible for a human body to dive so deep into the sea and still be fine. After diving here, Xia Pingon was shocked by his own ability. After looking at his hands and skin, he found that there were not many changes. Therefore, he let out a sigh of relief. Xia Pingon stayed in the water for 3 whole days. After 3 days, when the burning sensation and itching in his bones had completely disappeared and he had completely adapted to the water environment, Xia Pingon moved his body like a rocket and rushed towards the entrance of the blue hole. Splash! The blue hole's water surface exploded with a splash. Xia Pingon flew out from under the water and landed steadily outside the pool. Hands clasped behind his back, Immortal Mingi stood outside the pool as if he had expected that Xia Pingon would come out of the water at this moment. The other two summoners who failed to integrate with the tiger supporting realm bead that day were also standing beside Immortal Mingi obediently. No matter what Immortal Mingi wanted him to do, the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal was indeed a treasure. After digesting it, he had gained a lot. Xia Pingon hurriedly put on his clothes and bowed to Immortal Mingi, saying, "Senior, thank you for the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal. I feel like a flood dragon in the water. I can move freely in the water without using any skills." Immortal Nether River nodded as he said calmly, "You still have 2 days. You can adapt to your fighting ability in the water. Only when you can kill male mermaids in the water with your physical strength can you pass the test in the water." "Yes, thank you for your reminder. In the next 2 days, the two of them will accompany you to familiarize yourself with your fighting skills in the water." Xia Pingon glanced at the two people beside Immortal Mingi and cupped his hands, saying, "Please give me your guidance, brothers." The two men nodded lightly and didn't say anything else. "Well, you should be able to summon assassins, right?" Immortal Mingi asked directly. "Yes." Xia Pingon nodded. "Summon them for me to see." Xia Pingon didn't hesitate and nodded. A black mist flashed in front of his eyes as Xia Pingon summoned his rank 3 assassin. Level 3 assassin? Immortal Mingi saw through Xia Pingon's assassin at a glance. "Yes, I haven't fused with many assassin realm pearls, so I can only summon a level 3 assassin," Xia Pingon said. "A level 3 assassin might be very strong in other places, but this is the god-slaying bug world. The weakest summoner here is at the 6th Sun realm. Your level 3 assassin won't be of much use. You're still 2 levels away from a demon-slaying assassin." Xia Pingon scratched his head, not knowing what to say. Immortal Mingi didn't say anything else. He just waved his hand and left after saying that. "Alright, you guys continue with your training. If you have any questions, you can ask the two of them." After Immortal Mingi left, only Xia Pingon and 2 other people were left in the cave. "May I know your name, brother?" At this moment, the scholarly summoner smiled and cupped his hands at Xia Pingon, asking politely, "I'm Long Huan. May I know your names?" Xia Pingon asked. "You're too polite. I'm Meng Ziki." The scholarly summoner introduced himself. Then, he pointed at the bamboo-like guy beside him. "He's Renju, why are you two here?" Xia Pingon asked directly. "You also have the soul-stealing goo in your body, right? Why are you here?" "We're the same," Renju said coldly. This answer slightly surprised Xia Pingon. Meng Ziki let out a sigh as he said faintly, "Don't be surprised. We were not the only ones here. There were 9 people here in total. Now only the 2 of us are left. Including you, there are 3 of us," Renju added. "Don't be too happy. Actually, not everyone can absorb the Flood Dragon's Blood Soul Crystal. Some people would explode and burn into ashes after eating the Flood Dragon's Blood Soul Crystal. 2 people have already died in this pool." Seeing Xia Pingon's slight change of expression, Meng Ziki smiled again. "But don't worry. We've gained something here. 2 days later, when you survive the underwater fight with the mermaids, you'll be able to absorb 2 more Assassin's Realm Pearls and have the ability to summon demon-slaying assassins." "You've also experienced this?" Xia Pingon asked. Meng Ziki and Renju nodded. "Why did Senior Mingi do this?" "Senior Mingi might want to use our abilities to do something that he couldn't do himself. I feel that Senior Mingi is a bit anxious these days. He goes out more and more often. Perhaps in a few days, we'll know what Senior Mingi wants us to do. Of course, the premise is that you can survive until then." Chapter 410. The male merman was much larger than the 2 mermaids that Xia Pingon had seen. He was nearly 3 meters tall and his body was covered in black scales. His lower body was not shaped like a fishtail, but like a human with 2 legs. There were also scales on his face and sharp teeth exposed. He looked abnormally ugly, ferocious, and irritable. That male merman was placed in a huge metal cage and brought to the scene. The merman in the cage was abnormally manic. He roared from time to time and grabbed the metal cage with both hands. He kept shaking it, causing loud noises underwater. This scene was thousands of meters under the sea outside Crouching Dragon Island. It was like a huge arena. The surrounding stands were filled with people. The entire arena was about 2 kilometers in length and width. A translucent array barrier covered the entire arena. When Xia Pingon first came here, he didn't know that there was such a place in the Undying Sea. The summoners here liked to watch summoners and mermen having bloody fights underwater. There would be people betting outside the arena. Just like now, the real fight hadn't started yet, but the audience outside the arena had already gone crazy. Apart from summoners, there were also many mermen watching outside the arena. Those mermen occupied 1/3 of the stands. There were both males and females. Both parties used real gold, silver, pearls, treasures, and various other things to bet. This merman is a prisoner of the mermen. He's extremely vicious. He once killed several merman guards in the merman tribe and stole the merman tribe's ocean dragon pearl for cultivation. He's extremely strong. After being captured by the merman tribe, he was sent here. He's already defeated 2 summoners who had fused with flood dragon blood soul crystals. This time, this merman will welcome his 3rd summoner. The referee was a middle-aged man with a dark face and thin eyes. Floating in the water above the arena, he revealed his powerful cultivation base as a 7-sun realm summoner without any scruples. The referee's voice reverberated through the surrounding sea area. The rules of this duel are the same as before. Both parties are not allowed to use any spells. If anyone uses any spells, he or she will be killed on the spot. Both parties are only allowed to use weapons in the arena. According to the requirements of human summoners, this is a life and death duel. Only when one party dies will this duel be considered over. Xia Pingon knew that the words about not being able to use spells were meant for him. In fact, most summoning spells couldn't be used in such deep water. For example, the storm cavalry would be crushed by the huge water pressure and dissipate as soon as they were summoned. Fire elemental spells and circle prison were also useless. Most summoning spells that could be used on land couldn't be used here. There weren't many spells that summoners could use here. As for weapons, he had already seen them on the ground in the middle of the arena. There were shields, tridents, sabers, swords, spears, and more than a dozen types of weapons. Almost everything was there. Perfected Lord Nether River was on the most conspicuous stand at the edge of the arena. He looked at Xia Pingon expressionlessly. His lips moved slightly, and a wisp of voice entered Xia Pingon's ears. "This is a test for you. Whether you live or die, it's up to you." Meng Ziki and Renju were standing beside Perfected Lord Nether River. Those who didn't know would think that they were master and disciple. The scene in front of him was familiar to Xia Pingon. It reminded him of the scene when he entered the Death Corner arena on Earth. It seemed that the thrill-seeking hearts of both ordinary people and summoners were similar. Xia Pingon took a deep breath and squinted at the weapons in the middle of the arena. His brain was already making rapid deductions. The merman in the cage began to go berserk. The fight is about to begin. 3, 2, 1, open the cage. As soon as the word cage was uttered, the door of the metal cage that trapped the merman opened. The merman rushed to the middle of the arena like a lightning bolt in the water. Xia Pingon did the same. The moment the barrier in front of him disappeared, he rushed to the middle of the arena. Seeing the speed of the merman, Xia Pingon's heart skipped a beat. After 2 days of training, he felt completely at ease in the water. He was like a fish in the water and a dragon in the clouds. He didn't expect that the merman's speed was not slower than his. The target of the merman was a trident in the middle of the arena. Xia Pingon's target was not that trident or any other weapon, but that merman. The distance of more than 1,000 meters underwater was covered in the blink of an eye for both parties. The spectators could only see the two white lines rapidly approaching the center of the arena and colliding with each other in the blink of an eye. The merman stretched out his hand to grab the shaft of the trident in the middle of the arena. The moment the merman touched the trident, Xia Pingan also rushed to the front of the merman and stretched out his hand. In this kind of battle, life and death was actually a split second, a decision and judgment made in a split second. The merman thought that Xia Pingan wanted to grab the trident from him. Therefore, the moment his hand touched the trident, the merman revealed a grim smile towards Xia Pingan. The merman who grabbed the trident didn't even think about it. The moment he grabbed the trident, he immediately pulled back his hand and prepared to pierce through Xia Pingan's body at close range. However, the merman's judgment was wrong. Xia Pingan's outstretched hand was not to snatch the trident, it was just a feint. His goal was to make the merman misjudge and think that he wanted to snatch the trident from him. The moment the merman grabbed the trident, Xia Pingan had already rushed to the front of the merman. The moment the merman turned his hand back, Xia Pingan's hand had almost reached the merman's neck. The merman fiercely stabbed out his trident. The sharp steel thorns of the trident carried a torrent as fast as lightning in the water and pierced through Xia Pingan's chest, tearing Xia Pingan's clothes. At the same time, Xia Pingan had already circled to the merman's side and stretched out his hands, tightly wrapping the merman's neck from behind like a guillotine. Boom! With a huge momentum, Xia Pingan collided with the merman and slammed into the ground of the arena, shattering the hard, metal-like gravel on the ground and causing waves of water to explode. Not to mention the onlookers, even the summoner who acted as the referee was dumbfounded. When the waves of water subsided, everyone saw Xia Pingan lying on the ground of the arena. His hands were not holding any weapons, but they were tightly wrapped around the merman's neck. His legs were also wrapped around one of the merman's hands and body from behind. The merman was completely unable to move. He could only roll and struggle on the ground. Even though he was holding the trident, it had lost its use in this situation and fell to the ground. The merman's hands were trying to pry Xia Pingan's hands away from his neck. The power from Xia Pingan's hands made the merman feel despair and suffocation. The merman had never thought that a human summoner would have such terrifying power. The physical strength brought about by Xia Pingan's terrifying soul power finally broke out completely at this moment. The entire arena was silent. No one had thought that this battle would be like this. There were no dazzling fights, no fierce collisions, no blood-boiling scenes, and there was nothing to watch. There were only two people rolling on the ground like mud. Such a fight was not aesthetic at all. Those who were not in the merman's position would not be able to understand the despair and pain of the merman at this moment. After about 7 to 8 seconds of silence in the arena, Kacha, a crisp sound that resounded throughout the seabed came from Xia Pingan's tightly wrapped arms, like steel being twisted and broken. After this sound was heard, the merman who was struggling under Xia Pingan's decapitated head suddenly stopped moving. His ferocious face lost all its vitality at once, and he rolled his eyes like a dead fish. Xia Pingan loosened his arms and stood up gently. The neck of the strong merman had been completely crushed by him. It was as soft as a noodle. The merman fell on the ground of the arena, motionless. "I won." Xia Pingan glanced at the referee and said softly, "Announce the result." The referee in the air landed on the arena, squatted down, and checked the merman's corpse. Then, he announced the result of the duel loudly. "The human wins this duel." After a few seconds of silence, the arena was filled with loud cheers. Chapter 4:11. Amidst the cheers, Xia Pingan returned to the backstage of the fighting arena calmly and saw perfected Lord Mingyi, Meng Ziki, and Renju. Meng Ziki and Renju looked at Xia Pingan with surprise. No one had expected Xia Pingan to kill the merman so quickly. Perfected Lord Mingi nodded calmly and said, "Well done. Let's go." After saying that, Perfected Lord Mingi flung his sleeves and led Xia Pingan and the other two away. They flew out of the fighting arena and came to the surface of the sea. After a while, they returned to Perfected Lord Mingi's cave residence. After passing through the formation and entering the island, Meng Ziki and Rinju left while Perfected Lord Mingi brought Xia Pingan to a stone room. Perfected Lord Mingi waved his sleeves gently and a row of realm pearls and telepathic thought crystals appeared in front of Xia Pingan. Looking at the assassin realm pearls on the table, Xia Pingan's eyes lit up and he swallowed a mouthful of saliva. "Damn, this is too luxurious." At the sight of those realm beads, Xia Pingan immediately caught sight of the 3 assassin realm beads that he had integrated with, namely Tian Guangluanyong, Crown Prince Dan, and Chao Emo. Besides these 3 realm beads, there were 4 other rare assassin realm beads on the table. Xia Pingan glanced at the Xiaozhuan characters on the assassin realm beads and found that they were respectively Bian, Niezhing, Yaoli, and Zhuanzhu. Damn, if these assassin realm pearls fused with themselves, how powerful would the assassins he summoned be? Since true Lord Nether River could take out these realm pearls, it was needless to say that he had fused with these realm pearls before. Xia Pingan wondered what realm the assassin he had summoned was at. These are assassin realm pearls and telepathic thought crystals. You can choose any 2 of these realm pearls and fuse with them. This way, you can summon demon slayer assassins. Perfected Lord Mingi said to Xia Pingan. "Senior, why do you want me to summon demon slayer assassins?" "Of course. You'll know in a few days," Perfected Lord Mingi said faintly. Xia Pingan looked at the realm pearls and chose Niezhing and Zhuanzhu, as well as the corresponding telepathic thought pearls. "Crystals. You can fuse with them here," True Monarch Nether River said to Xia Pingan as he waved his hand and collected the remaining realm pearls. If Lord Mingi had a realm pearl, Lord Mingi did not need to fuse with the realm pearls. If Lord Mingi did not have to wait. The realm fuse, Lord Mingi, the realm king, and Zhuan Zhu's Zhu. A Lord Mingi, Lord Zhu, and Lord Mingi. Wang Pingi's Wang. Lord Zhu. At Wang Zhuan, Lord Yu, Wang Zhuan, fused Wang Mingzhu Zhu. Lord Wang was Lord Mingi, Zhuan and Lord had a Zhu had. Was Lord Zhuan. Zhuan Zhu's assassination of Wang Liao was too famous. Because of this, Zhuan Zhu became one of the representative assassins of the spring and autumn period. Zhuan Zhu's fish intestine sword was also very famous. It had been a long time since Xia Pingan had broken the historical destiny of those people in the realm pearls. After obtaining this realm pearl, Xia Pingan's ambition to challenge them was ignited again. There was no point in killing Wang Zhua step by step. If he could survive the siege of Wang Zhua's guards after killing Wang Zhua, then Zhuan Zhu's fate would be changed, and he would get a lot of divine power. When Xia Pingan began to fuse with the realm pearls, Perfected Lord Mingi sat cross-legged on the stone bed opposite him and closed his eyes to rest. More than 10 minutes later, Perfected Lord Mingi suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Xia Pingan with some surprise. This was because the divine power imbuement fluctuation coming from Xia Pingan's body was somewhat abnormal. It seemed to be much stronger than when others fused with the realm pearls. Ordinary people would obtain between 30 and 38 points of divine power after fusing with the realm pearls. But at this moment, the divine power fluctuation coming from Xia Pingan's body had greatly exceeded the divine power imbuement of more than 30 points of divine power. The probability of this happening was extremely low. Perfected Lord Mingi did not know the specific reason. The more a summoner could break through the divine power limit of the realm pearls, the more it indicated that the summoner had extraordinary talent and astonishing future achievements. Sensing the divine power fluctuation coming from Xia Pingan's body, Perfected Lord Mingi looked at Xia Pingan with a deep gaze. There was something else in his gaze. A moment later, the light cocoon on Xia Pingan's body shattered and Xia Pingan opened his eyes. How much divine power did you gain? 195 points. Xia Pingan answered honestly with a puzzled expression. I don't know why my divine power increased so much when I fused with the Realm Pearl. After fusing with the Realm Pearl of Concentration, the divine power limit in the Xia Pingan secret mandala had increased from 6,275 points to 6,470 points. He was a big step closer to the 6,930 points needed to reach the Sixth Sun Realm. He was only 460 points away. Xia Pingan looked at the remaining Niezheng Realm Pearl and secretly licked his lip. If he could continue fusing with this Realm Pearl and obtain another 200 points of divine power, the Sixth Sun Realm would be within his reach. Perfected Lord Mingi pondered for a moment. When he thought of Xia Pingan's performance in the arena today, he secretly guessed that Xia Pingan's bravery and resourcefulness in battle might have matched some of the mysteries of the Realm Pearl. That was why Xia Pingan was able to gain so much divine power in one go. After thinking it through, Perfected Lord Mingi nodded. This is also your fortune. Continue fusing. Yes. Xia Pingan nodded and continued to fuse with Niezheng's Realm Pearl and the Divine Thought Crystal with his blood. Among the assassins of the Spring and Autumn era, Niezheng was definitely the most skilled in martial arts and swordsmanship. Niezheng was also one of Xia Pingan's favorite assassins. Niezheng was a master swordsman. Like Jing Ku and Zhuanzhu, they had to think of a way to quietly get close to their targets before taking action. But Niezheng was different. Niezheng was tired of assassinating Han Xiangxia, so he had to break in openly. At that time, Xia Pingan was sitting in the main hall of his mansion with a large group of experts protecting him. Over 100 people were protecting him. Niezheng and his sword forcibly broke through the blockade of all the experts and guards around Xia Pingan, killing dozens of experts and rushing to Xia Pingan's side and killing him with his sword. Such bravery was like taking the head of a general in an army of 10,000. However, the one who left the deepest impression was Niezheng's sister, Nieyun. After Niezheng killed Xia Pingan, he did not want to implicate his sister Nieyun and did not want to be recognized. He used his sword to destroy his face, gouged out his eyes, and committed suicide by disemboweling. His body was displayed on the streets for people to recognize. When Nieyun heard that there was someone who could kill Xia Pingan alone, she felt that the person who could do so should be Niezheng. She was not afraid of death and personally came to the capital of Korea to identify the body. After seeing the body, she found that it was indeed her brother, Niezheng. In order not to bury her brother's reputation and let Niezheng's name be passed down in the future, Nieyun said Niezheng's name and identity. She cried in grief and finally died in front of Niezheng's body. It was because of Nieyun that Niezheng became famous and left a mark in the history book. Nieyun used her own life to tell the world that the so-called loyalty, righteousness, and restraint were not a monopoly of men. The story of this pair of siblings was really heart-wrenching and made people cry. Chapter 412. Again? Half an hour later, Lord Mingi, who was sitting opposite Xia Pingan, opened his eyes again with his mouth slightly agape. The look in his eyes was as if he had seen a ghost in his cave residence in broad daylight. No, it was even more shocking than seeing a ghost, because if there really was a ghost, Lord Mingi could directly exorcise it. At this moment, the fluctuations of divine power emanating from Xia Pingan's body intensified again, completely exceeding the level that should have been achieved after successfully fusing with that Realm Pearl. Lord Mingi was very clear that the Assassin Realm Pearl just now was the most difficult one to fuse with among all the Realm Pearls. In fact, the success rate of fusing with many Realm Pearls was not 100% guaranteed with a spiritual sense crystal. Due to the existence of the mystery of boundaries, No one knew what would happen after fusing with a spiritual sense crystal. However, based on historical experience, for some realm pearls that were extremely difficult to fuse successfully, even if there was a spiritual sense crystal, it might only increase the success rate of the fusion, but not guarantee a 100% success rate. For example, the Assassin Realm Pearl that Xia Pingan had chosen to fuse with just now could increase his divine power by 40 to 50 points under normal circumstances. However, at this moment, the divine power fluctuations coming from Xia Pingan's body were at least 200 points. It was too strong. In fact, Xia Pingan was very clear about this point. Even if the spiritual sense crystal told you what Niezheng was capable of, when you really became Niezheng, could you guarantee that your swordsmanship would be better than Niezheng's, and that you would be able to kill a prime minister who was heavily guarded? Could you guarantee that you had the courage to do so? The spiritual sense crystal was like a strategy, but it did not mean that you would succeed every time it was given. When Xia Pingan fused with the Assassin Realm Pearl, he had already achieved a breakthrough. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, he achieved a second breakthrough. Many ordinary summoners, even if they were at the 7th or 8th rank, might not even have such a breakthrough in their lifetime. However, in front of Lord Mingi, in a very short period of time, he had seen someone achieve a breakthrough twice in a row, which was even more difficult than a perfect fusion. To true monarch Nether River, this was like an ordinary person watching his friend buy 2 lottery tickets consecutively and hit the jackpot. Could it be that this kid was born to fuse with the Assassin's Realm Pearl? How could he fuse with it twice in a row? True monarch Nether River murmured to himself. His eyes shone brightly as he sized up Xia Pingan once more. Finally, the light cocoon on Xia Pingan's body shattered. Xia Pingan opened his eyes and he felt a little excited. He had succeeded again, and his divine power had increased by 257 points. The divine power limit of the secret mandala had reached 6,727 points, and he was only one step away from the 6th Sun realm. True monarch Styx River's gaze made Xia Pingan's hair stand on end. He coughed lightly and said with an innocent expression, "Senior, this realm pearl has also been successfully fused. It seems to have increased a lot of divine power. When you fused with this realm pearl, did you feel anything special?" "No." Xia Pingan shook his head. "I feel like it's similar to fusing with other realm bead. With the existence of the mystery of boundaries, I don't remember anything when I woke up." "Did this happen when you fused with other Assassin Realm Pearls?" "No." Even though Xia Pingan knew the process of fusing with other Assassin Realm Pearls, it was very difficult for him to achieve a breakthrough. Just like the Realm Pearl of Chao Imo, he couldn't kill Duke Huan of Qi during the League meeting. If he did that, he would probably be chopped into pieces and his head would explode if the fusion failed. After a moment of silence, True Monarch Nether River said, "Summon your Demon Slayer assassin for me to see." "Yes." Xia Pingan waved his hand, and a black fog appeared in front of him. A black figure of a masked assassin suddenly came out of the black fog and stood in front of Xia Pingan. Compared to before, the aura of this assassin summoned by Xia Pingan could not be sensed at all. Even if he stood in front of people, he would feel like a shadow. In addition, this assassin was holding a fish-intestine dagger backhand. He was squatting slightly, and his eyes were flashing coldly. He was observing the surrounding environment like an arrow on a bow or a crouching tiger. He was ready to burst out at any time. Squinting his eyes, True Monarch Nether River sized up this demon slayer assassin summoned by Xia Pingan. When he saw the row of flying daggers on the assassin's waist, his eyes slightly narrowed. Other demon slayer assassins summoned by fusing with 5 Assassin Realm Pearls didn't have flying daggers on their waists, and their auras were not so weird. Different summoners might get different results after fusing with the same Realm Pearl. This was the secret of the summoner's secret mandala. True monarch Nether River waved his hand and summoned a warlord at once. This warlord was more than 2 meters tall, wearing shiny fish scale armor, and holding a coiled dragon spear in his hand. He was majestic and full of oppressive aura. As soon as this warlord was summoned, true monarch Nether River pointed at the assassin summoned by Xia Pingon. The spear in the warlord's hand shook. With a hum, the spear shot out like a dragon, making a vibrating sound in the air. The spear stabbed towards the assassin summoned by Xia Pingon. As soon as the warlord made a move, Xia Pingon knew that true monarch Nether River wanted to see the ability of the assassin he summoned. Without hesitation, Xia Pingon issued a battle order. The assassin he summoned instantly disappeared, evading the warlord's attack. Then, he appeared beside the warlord in a flash. The fish-intestine dagger in his hand directly stabbed towards the assassin's armpit through the gap of the battle armor. The assassin's movement was sharp and swift as lightning. The general roared and turned around, dodging the dagger with a single step. He used his armor to block the dagger and then flicked his spear, causing a streak of fire to appear in the air as he stabbed at the assassin's throat. The assassin's dagger hit the tip of the spear, making a clanging sound. The assassin was sent flying by the general's attack. His feet left the ground as he flew backward. The general's attack was like fire. With a roar, the spear in his hand pierced out like a storm. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of spears had pierced towards the assassin. With each spear thrusts, the spear thrusts in the spear thrusts caused a sonic boom in the air. The spear thrusts ignited the air. Flames surged in the cave and the temperature in the cave rose by dozens of degrees. Not only that, the spear thrusts of the spear thrusts were dazzling. A cold spear thrusts fell on the stone wall of the cave and directly pierced a hole more than 3 feet deep in the stone wall. Gravel splashed everywhere. Because of the sudden rise in temperature in the cave, there were flames everywhere. Xia Pingon had to summon a water shield to protect himself. Otherwise, his clothes would be set ablaze. True monarch Nether River watched calmly from the side. The flames automatically avoided him as soon as they reached him. Under such a torrential attack, the assassin summoned by Xia Pingon was like a fallen leaf in the sea. His figure was strange like a wisp of smoke. Although the wind and waves were fierce, the fallen leaf drifted with the waves and did not sink. The fish-intestine dagger in the assassin's hand could always tap on the spear thrusts or spear thrusts at the right time. Instead, he used the spear thrusts to accelerate his movements and constantly looked for opportunities to get close to the warlord. The battle between the two was too intense and exciting. Moreover, it was unpredictable. To be honest, Xia Pingon had not seen a battle of this level more than a few times. A few minutes later, the assassin threw out darts that were as fast as lightning. The warlord brandished his spear thrusts and formed a barrier of flames and spear thrusts around his body. Amidst the dense clanging sounds, the assassin deflected all the darts. However, one of the darts silently drilled out of the ground and sank into the gap between the warlord's thigh and knee. The warlord staggered and his hand movements became sluggish. The assassin had already closed in and stabbed the assassin through the gap between the warlord's helmet and neck guard. The warlord twisted his head and leaned to the side to avoid the vital point in the gap between his neck, and the Yuchang sword directly pierced his shoulder. Then, without waiting for the assassin to retreat, the warlord roared and grabbed the Yuchang sword with one hand while his other hand and one leg broke the spear thrusts in his hand. Then, he directly stabbed the Yuchang sword like a dagger into the assassin's eyes at close range. It was a tragic and fierce scene. The assassin summoned by Xia Pingon suddenly dissipated with a bang. However, at the same time, the assassin's shadow suddenly stood up from the ground and transformed into a human. It grabbed the Yuchang sword dagger that had pierced into the warlord's shoulder and instantly stabbed it into the warlord's throat, twisting it fiercely. The warlord's head flew up and his entire body suddenly dissipated into light. Then, the murderous shadow materialized and turned back into the assassin's appearance. With a wave of his hand, Xia Pingan summoned the assassin back into the secret mandala. When the assassin's shadow rushed out to kill the warlord, true monarch Nether River's eyes suddenly focused and his heart trembled. The demon slayer assassin summoned in front of him didn't have any spell buffs or transformations applied by a summoner. The assassin used the assassin's shadow to kill the warlord he summoned was the same as the assassin's flying dagger. It was a kind of innate skill of the assassin. Other demon slayer assassins definitely didn't have such an innate skill. What's the skill of the assassin's shadow? True monarch Nether River looked at Xia Pingan and softly asked. Senior, I don't know what's going on with that shadow. After completing the fusion with the realm bead, the assassin seemed to have this ability. The shadow's ability is called double kill. In fact, Xia Pingan was very clear that this double kill skill should have something to do with the fusion with Niezheng's realm bead. That realm bead was a breakthrough fusion. Xia Pingan's incarnation of Niezheng not only escaped unscathed after assassinating Xia Pingan, but also made appropriate arrangements before the assassination so that Nie Yun wouldn't be implicated. He saved himself and didn't let Nie Yun die again, avoiding a tragedy. Then, the assassin he summoned had the strange innate skill of double kill. Double kill. True monarch Nether River muttered to himself and took a deep look at Xia Pingan. I originally wanted to arrange 2 missions for you after you could summon the Demon Slayer assassin to test the ability of the assassin you summoned. Since the Demon Slayer assassin you summoned has such an ability, there's no need to test it anymore. Chapter 413. Senior, do you want me to fuse with the assassin's realm pearl because of what you want me to do? Xia Pingan tried to ask. Of course, he didn't expect true monarch Styx River to answer. He was just curious. However, out of Xia Pingan's expectation, this time, Lord Nether River threw a glance at him. After pondering for a short while, Lord Nether River said, It's getting closer and closer to that time. It doesn't matter if I tell you. Yes, the reason why I asked you to integrate with the Assassin's Realm bead is indeed related to what I want you to do. In a few days, I will take you to a place. After entering that place, there's a checkpoint. You need to be able to summon at least a demon-slaying assassin to pass it. Xia Pingan was even more confused. Senior, I see that you're only 1 step away from the demigod realm. You've already reached the Heaven Ascension realm. Is there an opponent you can't deal with in that place? If you can't deal with it, then what's the use of me even if I can summon a demon slayer assassin? Xia Pingan asked curiously. That place can only be entered by summoners below the ethereal opening realm. Do you understand? Those above the ethereal opening realm can't enter, not even demigods. Naturally, I can't enter either. There's something I need in that place, so I can only send people in to get it. The ethereal opening realm was the 7 Sun realm. For summoners, the 7 Sun realm was another watershed. After the 6 Sun realm, each realm was a different realm. The difference was too great. Only those below the ethereal opening realm can enter? Why is there such a strange place? Xia Pingan asked curiously. It's strange indeed. Legend has it that there's a place where gods perish. It's somewhere in the undying sea. True monarch Styx River said in a deep voice. Xia Pingan was shocked. He finally understood why true monarch Styx River had so many requirements for him. The place where gods perish? True monarch Styx River nodded slightly. The place where gods perish is part of the divine kingdom of the fallen god. There are all kinds of treasures inside, but it's also very dangerous. Summoners above the ethereal opening realm will suffer a backlash from the place, even if they're demigods. It's difficult for them to come out alive. Only summoners below the ethereal opening realm can enter that place and come out alive. That's too strange. Why is the place where gods perish so strange? This involves the secret of the gods' divine kingdom, Xia Pingan was envious of his cultivation. He was close to becoming a demigod, but only he knew how far he was from becoming one. Even if he became a demigod, the path of demigod apotheosis was extremely difficult. It was not something an outsider could understand. The higher one went on the path of cultivation, the more difficult it was. It was no longer something that could be achieved through hard work and luck. Senior, you want something from that place? Yes. Legend has it that there's a divine weapon left behind by the fallen god. True Monarch Styx River glanced at Xia Pingan. You don't have to think too much. It's useless to give you the divine weapon if you're not a demigod or below. For me, if I can get the divine weapon, I'll be able to clear the obstacles in my path to the spirit condensation realm. It'll be very beneficial after I reach the spirit condensation realm. Senior, you must be joking. I don't dare to expect any divine weapon. I'll be satisfied if I can reach the ethereal opening realm. Xia Pingan smiled modestly. You don't have to belittle yourself. Among all the summoners of your realm that I know, you are the most special one. Perhaps in a few years you can reach my realm today. Oh right, Mengziki and Renju, although they are in the same situation as you and you feel that you share the same fate, they cannot be trusted. You have to be more careful in the future, especially in a few days when I bring you to the land of the fallen gods. When you enter, don't trust anyone, only yourself. Also, remember not to tell anyone about the spell that can make the heavenly star giant clam unable to close its shell. Perfected Lord Mingi's last two sentences were a little solemn. Xia Pingan felt that true Monarch Styx River's attitude towards him seemed to have changed. How should he put it? He seemed to have become more friendly and had a special expectation for him. This feeling was strange and made Xia Pingan uncomfortable. He was already used to true Monarch Styx River's indifference and strange temper. Senior, don't worry. I know. I treasure my life. Mengziki and Renju can also summon demon-slaying assassins. These realm pearls are for you. If you have time in the next 2 days, fuse with the assassin realm pearls that you can fuse with. Your ability to summon assassins will be stronger and you'll be able to protect yourself in the future. As true Monarch Styx River spoke, he waved his hand gently. The remaining assassin realm pearls that Xia Pingan saw appeared in front of Xia Pingan at once. This old man is giving me realm pearls? Is his brain damaged? At this moment, Xia Pingan really wanted to reach out and touch true Monarch Styx River's head to see if he had a fever. Seeing Xia Pingan's strange look, true Monarch Styx River became annoyed as he glared at him with his triangular eyes. What's with that look? What are you looking at? Forget it if you don't want it. I want Senior's gift. I dare not decline. Senior, how could I decline your gift? Thank you, Senior. Xia Pingan was still worrying about where to find rare realm pearls to advance to the Six Suns realm. He had not expected that this old man would give him the remaining assassin realm pearls. This was simply a gift from the heavens. How could he be polite? Seeing true Monarch Styx River's feigned anger, he hurriedly put on a cheeky smile and swept all the realm pearls on the table into his own space teleportation equipment. 7 days later, I'll take you to that place. Prepare yourself in the next few days. When the time comes, I'll tell you what to do. Perfected Lord Nether River snorted and left the cave with a flick of his sleeves. Xia Pingan stroked his chin as he looked at true Monarch Styx River's back view. For the first time, he realized that apart from being cold-blooded, bad-tempered, vicious, and not caring about the lives of others, this old man did not seem to be an irredeemably evil person. After true Monarch Styx River left the cave, Xia Pingan calmed himself down before taking out the remaining assassin realm pearls to take a look. Among those few realm pearls, there were still 2 that he had not fused with. If he could continue to fuse with those 2 realm pearls, then he should have no problem advancing to the Six Suns realm. Xia Pingan rubbed his hands and picked up Yao Li's realm pearl and spiritual sense crystal before starting to fuse them. Chapter 4:14. Wei Country, Heavy Snow, Mountain. The snow started falling last night and had been falling for half a day. The entire mountain was covered in snow and the cold wind whistled through the mountain. Wei Country's AI City was more than 10 li away from this mountain. AI City was a small city, and at this moment it was also shrouded in snow. After Wu Wangliao was assassinated by Zhuanzhu, Wu Wangliao's son, Qingji, fled to Wei Country's AI City. He began to recruit and train soldiers in AI City and frequently sent out envoys to communicate with Wu Country's neighbors. He swore to avenge Wu Country's father and was preparing to take back Wu Country's throne. This kind of Qingji naturally became a great threat to Helv. After Helv had Zhuanzhu get rid of Wu Wangliao, he had Wu Zishu continue to help him find expert assassins, preparing to continue using assassins to get rid of Qingji. Just like this, Xia Pingan, who was the Yao Li, was once again recommended to Helv by Wu Zishu. In history, in order to assassinate Qingji, Yao Li wanted to find a way to get close to Qingji. He didn't hesitate to sacrifice his own wife and children, and even had Helv cut off his arm. Only then did he gain Qingji's trust. After escaping to the state of Wei, he got close to Qingji and patiently lurked. In the end, when Qingji was on a boat, he finally found a chance to kill Qingji. Xia Pingan was once very curious why Yao Li was so ruthless. In order to kill someone, he didn't hesitate to sacrifice his own life and that of his wife and child. Only after becoming Yao Li did Xia Pingan finally understand why Yao Li was so ruthless. The root of it all was Yao Li's father. Yao Li's father was also an assassin. Yao Li was born in an assassin family. During the spring and autumn period, assassins were also a profession. Yao Li's father was an assassin, but he was always unknown. He didn't do anything that could leave his name behind. This became the regret of Yao Li's father. When he was old, he would drown his sorrows in alcohol every day. Under his father's education, Yao Li was influenced by him from a young age. He wanted to become an assassin that could shake the feudal lords and not let his father's regret become his own regret. He wanted to assassinate Qingji. Why was he so ruthless? It was because he was carrying their family's ideals and destiny. As for Qingji, he bore another kind of fate and tragedy of the Wu Kingdom's royal family. This tragedy originated from Helv's father. When Helv's father passed the throne to his brother instead of Helv, the tragedy of the Wu Kingdom's royal family was already buried. The Prince of Wu who was assassinated by Zhuanzhu was actually the son of Helv's third uncle. Qingji was Helv's nephew. An assassin and a royal noble were about to clash here tonight. Xia Pingan hugged his longsword, wore a dog fur hat, and wore a leather jacket. He sat in a grass pavilion halfway up the mountain. There was a charcoal fire burning in the pavilion, and it was away from the wind, so it was much warmer than outside. Sitting in the pavilion, he could see the situation from AI City to the foot of the mountain. Xia Pingan was warming the wine in the grass pavilion. At this moment, his identity was Yao Li. If this realm bead wanted to break through the fusion, Yao Li would do it, but he wouldn't. At dusk, a knight in a black cloak arrived at the foot of the mountain from AI City on a fine horse with a long spear in his hand. He left his horse at the foot of the mountain and went up the mountain alone with his long spear. That person was very agile. Under the heavy snow, half of the mountain path was blocked by snow, making it slippery and difficult to walk on. However, that person was running like a tiger or leopard. He was very agile, running and jumping. In a short while, he arrived halfway up the mountain. When he saw the pavilion, he walked over with his long spear. The wind and snow fell on that man's thick eyebrows. Under his thick eyebrows was a pair of bright eyes. That person was staring at Xia Pingan, who was warming the wine in the pavilion. If someone from AI City was here, they would definitely recognize this man. This man was Qing Ji. Since young master is here, then come and have a drink to warm your body, Xia Pingan said to that person. Then, he picked up the warm wine pot and poured 2 cups of steaming wine. Qing Ji strode over to the pavilion and sat down in front of Xia Pingan. He looked at Xia Pingan and said in a deep voice, I didn't know when he had such an expert assassin as his subordinate. You could have killed me last night. Why didn't you? Qing Ji said. Then, he put a sheathed short sword on the table. This sword was the Yuchang sword. It was a weapon specially used to assassinate his father. It was also something that Xia Pingan took from Helv again. When Qing Ji woke up this morning, he found the Yuchang sword that was used to assassinate his father and a bamboo slip beside his pillow. This made Qing Ji break out in a cold sweat. Then, according to the agreement on the bamboo slip, he didn't bring any attendants and went to the small hill outside AI City alone to see the person who left the sword behind. Young master is a hero that I respect and admire. You shouldn't die in your sleep. I feel that even if young master is going to die, your eyes should be open and not closed. Young master should die in a real fight and not by a hidden sword. Therefore, I asked young master to come here today. I want to openly assassinate young master here. Xia Pingan looked at Qing Ji and said. In Xia Pingan's eyes, Qing Ji was the representative of China's true nobility during the spring and autumn period. Young master Qing Ji was born in the Wu Kingdom's royal family. He practiced martial arts from a young age. He was strong and fearless. He liked to hunt. According to historical records, every time Qing Ji went out to hunt, he would bring thousands of riders, tigers, leopards, and giant elephants. He would pass through waterfalls and streams, kill bears, choke tigers, and fight leopards. He was incomparably brave. However, what truly showed young master Qing Ji's nobility wasn't this extravagance, but his attitude toward Yao Li. Yao Li had obtained his trust and tried to assassinate him. Qing Ji was seriously injured and on the verge of death. However, he didn't think about killing Yao Li, who had deceived him. Instead, he ordered his subordinates, saying that Yao Li was a true warrior in the world. He ordered his subordinates not to harm Yao Li and let him go. Therefore, Yao Li didn't die under the revenge of young master Qing Ji's subordinate. Yao Li, who could have left alive, chose to commit suicide in the end. He accompanied young master Qing Ji, who was assassinated by him but who truly understood him, to the Yellow Springs. It was because of young master Qing Ji and the assassin Yao Li that China's history was so brilliant. It was also because of young master Qing Ji and the assassin Yao Li that China's civilization was able to continue for thousands of years. May I know your name? Qing Ji raised his wine cup and asked. Yao Li. Xia Pingan also raised his wine cup. Haha, interesting, interesting. For an assassin like you to be able to sneak into my bedroom in the middle of the night and not take my sleeping head, instead leaving behind the Yuchang sword and inviting me here for a fair and square battle to the death. If Helv were to find out, he might beat his chest and stamp his feet. Qing Ji laughed loudly. Young master, you could have also found an assassin to kill Helv to avenge your father. However, why didn't you do so? Why did you choose to train your troops in AI City? The two of them looked at each other and drank the wine in their hand. There were things that men should do and things that they shouldn't do. The two of them continued to drink until they finished all the wine in the jug. They drank until their bodies were warm and their blood was boiling. After drinking the last cup of wine, young master Qing Ji threw the wine cup down and stood up. He took off his cloak and threw it on the ground. He then picked up the spear beside him and said, satisfying, "Today I can fight with you. Whether I live or die, I have no regrets. Please." As he spoke, he walked out of the pavilion and arrived at the hillside outside. Xia Pingan picked up the sword beside him and also walked out of the pavilion. Please! The two of them stared at each other. As their gazes met, they made their moves almost at the same time. Qing Ji's spear stabbed forward. Xia Pingan's sword stabbed forward. The tip of the sword heavily struck the tip of the spear at that critical moment. The two of them flew backwards at the same time. Compared to Xia Pingan, Qing Ji's shock was indescribable. That was because he had aimed his spear at Xia Pingan's chest, while the tip of Xia Pingan's sword had been aimed at the tip of his spear. Such exquisite swordsmanship was rarely seen in the world. Moreover, the huge force from the sword almost made him lose his grip on the spear. What Qing Ji didn't know was that the one fighting with him wasn't Yao Li, but Niezheng, who was also Xia Pingan. This was a battle of life and death. Qing Ji roared. His spear was like a dragon, stirring up a snowstorm as it pierced towards Xia Pingan. The sound of sword and spear clashing rang out continuously. The two of them were like swimming dragons. They danced and spun on the snow-filled hillside, turning into two shadows. A few minutes later, boom! Qing Ji's spear sent the entire grass pavilion flying. Xia Pingan's figure flashed under the tip of Qing Ji's spear. He dodged in an instant and closed in on Qing Ji like a ghost. Before Qing Ji could withdraw his spear, he felt a chill on his neck. Xia Pingan's sword was already pressed against his neck. The sky full of grass finally fell. The two of them didn't move anymore. Qing Ji's body stiffened. He threw down his spear and sighed softly. I accept my defeat. You can make your move now. Xia Pingan swung his sword. Qing Ji felt a chill on the top of his head. His hair and crown had been cut off. His hair was disheveled. Xia Pingan lightly flicked his sword. Young Master Qing Ji was assassinated by Yao Li in the mountains outside Ai City. His corpse rolled down the mountain and was probably eaten by tigers and wolves. Young Master Qing Ji will no longer exist in this world. After saying this, Xia Pingan put away his sword and turned to leave. Because young Master Qing Ji was a true noble, this battle could be ended in a true noble way. That sword strike just now had actually killed young Master Qing Ji. Qing Ji stood in the snow in a daze and watched Xia Pingan's figure gradually disappear. When Xia Pingan's figure completely disappeared, Qing Ji looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Then, he found the Yuchang sword under the grass pavilion. He used the Yuchang sword to cut his face heavily. Blood immediately covered his face. That hideous wound made his face no longer look the same as before. Qing Ji descended the mountain with blood flowing down his body. He rode his horse again but didn't return to Ai City. Instead, he disappeared in the opposite direction of Ai City. He disappeared into the twilight and just like that, he disappeared. One day later, news of Qing Ji's disappearance spread throughout Ai City. The entire city was in a state of panic and rumors flew everywhere. A few days later, news of Qing Ji's death spread throughout Ai City. Qing Ji's old subordinates in Ai City fell apart. The entire country of Wei was saying that Qing Ji was dead. Qing Ji never appeared again. The world inside the boundary pearl shattered. Chapter 4:15. Several days later, perfected Lord Nether River's speed in the sky was too fast, and he used a secret technique to conceal his figure. Outsiders could not see him at all. Xia Pingan, Mengziki, and Rinzhu were captured by perfected Lord Nether River's divine power. They were carried by perfected Lord Nether River in the sky like three burdens. Xia Pingan, Mengziki, and Rinzhu did not know how many miles they had flown and where they had flown to. This was because from beginning to end, there was only a vast expanse of white mist around them. There were no coordinates or markings. Although the three of them had their eyes open, they felt like they were being blindfolded. Xia Pingan could only feel that perfected Lord Nether River had flown with them for 3 days and 3 nights. Given perfected Lord Nether River's flying speed, they should have flown hundreds of thousands of miles in these 3 days and 3 nights. The whole journey was silent. Perfected Lord Nether River did not speak. Mengziki and Renju did not speak either. Naturally, Xia Pingan did not speak either. Before they came, perfected Lord Nether River had already revealed the mystery and told them the goal of this trip and their mission. Perfected Lord Nether River also told Xia Pingan more. Xia Pingan finally knew why perfected Lord Nether River had taken a fancy to his tiger prop secret technique. Perfected Lord Nether River promised the three that as long as they brought out what he wanted, he would return their freedom to them. 3 days later, Xia Pingan felt that perfected Lord Nether River had brought them from the sky into the sea. The white clouds around them also turned into blue water. The water swayed. After several hours, perfected Lord Nether River's voice finally reached their ears. "We're here," then, the water around them disappeared. Xia Pingan and the other two found that perfected Lord Nether River had brought them to a strange seabed. Xia Pingan was in an extremely serene canyon at the bottom of the undying sea. As he glanced around, Xia Pingan could only see glowing fish swimming in the surrounding seawater. That kind of fish would only appear at the bottom of the sea at a depth of tens of thousands of meters. The canyon was full of jagged rock. A fiery red lava river flowed calmly at the bottom of the canyon. The lava and water came in contact with each other, producing a large number of bubbles. However, in the depths of the sea beside the lava, there were layers of frozen ice everywhere. Ice and fire mingled and coexisted harmoniously here. In front of the four, there was a huge dilapidated shrine submerged in the sea. The shrine occupied an area of several square kilometers. There were also huge pillars and some broken statues in the circular shrine. Xia Pingan and the other two were brought here by true monarch Styx River. They had no idea where they were in the undying sea. "Senior, is this the entrance to the fallen god's land you mentioned?" Xia Pingan asked. "Yes, it's here." Perfected Lord Nether River nodded. "The dilapidated shrine in front of you is a powerful killing formation at the entrance to the land of fallen gods. If you enter rashly, you will die instantly," True Monarch Nether River said. He pointed his finger and summoned a water dragon. After the water dragon was summoned, it directly rushed towards the huge dilapidated temple. Soon, Xia Pingan saw the water dragon rushing into the dilapidated shrine. Then, the tranquil water in the dilapidated shrine started to swirl. Xia Pingan saw a cold light flashing in the void. In the blink of an eye, the water dragon was sliced into pieces by the cold light and dissipated in the shrine. Soon after, the swirling water in the temple stopped, as if nothing had happened. F***ck. Xia Pingan, Mengziki, and Renju looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. "Senior, how do we enter?" asked Mengziki. "You'll know in a while. Someone else is coming. Someone else is going in with us?" "Yes. After you enter, be careful. Some dangers may come from those who go in with you." Almost as soon as perfected Lord Mingi finished speaking, Xia Pingan saw a huge underwater whirlpool appear in the water not far away. After the whirlpool dissipated, a smiling old man in a red robe with a head full of silver hair appeared at the spot where the whirlpool had dissipated with 7 people. The old man himself was wearing a red robe, and the 7 people behind him were all handsome men. They were all wearing red robes, and their faces were deathly pale, as if they were covered in a layer of powder. Moreover, their temperaments were cold, and they looked abnormally demonic. In any case, it made people feel uncomfortable just by looking at them. "Ha ha, perfected Lord Nether River, long time no see." The old man smiled and greeted perfected Lord Nether River. Perfected Lord Nether River glanced at the old man and said softly, "Old monster Tianhua, your water escape technique is getting more and more powerful. I almost didn't notice you just now. Ha ha ha, you're flattering me. I have a lot of enemies. Of course, I have to practice my escaping skills more. The old man laughed. Then, his eyes fell on Xia Pingan and the other two. You didn't bring many people this time, only 3. You brought 5 last time. What a pity, none of them came out alive. It doesn't matter how many people there are. It depends on luck. Didn't none of the disciples you recruited last time come out alive? Perfected Lord Nether River and Old Monster Tianhua were talking. It seemed that the two of them were not on good terms. Perfected Lord Nether River's voice suddenly sounded in Xia Pingan's ears. After you enter, if you meet the people behind this old monster alone, you'd better avoid them if you can't defeat them. Although this old monster Tianhua looks all smiles, he's actually the most sinister and perverted. I have some conflicts with him. When you enter, be careful of the people behind him. They seem to be his disciples, but they're actually his gigolos and puppets. Perfected Lord Nether River's voice sounded in Xia Pingan's ears. One could imagine how perverted these people were if they could be described as perverted by Perfected Lord Nether River. Hearing the words, gigolos, and looking at the 7 handsome men behind old monster Tianhua, Xia Pingan felt goosebumps all over his body and wanted to vomit. But before Xia Pingan could vomit, the sky above the canyon suddenly darkened. Xia Pingan looked up and saw a huge black dragon. It was passing through the sky above the canyon and swimming down rapidly. That black dragon was too big. It was more than 1,000 meters long and majestic. On the black dragon's head, between the 2 dragon horns, stood a woman in a white dress. She was beautiful and ethereal. When Xia Pingan looked at her, he could not help but think of a sentence from the Luo Shenfu. She was like a light cloud covering the moon, drifting like the returning snow in the wind. From afar, she was as bright as the rising sun. From afar, she was as bright as the morning glow. From afar, she was as bright as a lotus flower. She was delicate and fit. Her shoulders were cut, her waist was plain, her neck was elegant, her skin was white, her body was beautiful, her body was calm, her body was gentle, and her words were charming. The black dragon zigzagged down from the sky. When it reached the sky above the dilapidated temple, it swayed its body and stopped. Seeing that woman, Lord Styx River perked up and took the initiative to nod at her. Greetings, Black Dragon Sect Leader. Old Freak Tianhua did not speak, but he put away the smile on his face. He seemed to be very wary and quietly put some distance between him and the woman. Xia Pingan was surprised. That woman did not look old, but she was already the leader of a sect. He had never heard of the Black Dragon Gate, but to be able to make true Monarch Mingi so serious and make old monster Tianhua so fearful, it must be a big power, and that woman looked very young. Although the woman looked young, her cultivation should be below a demigod. Behind the Black Dragon Sect leader stood 2 women in the same dress. One of them was in a green dress and the other in a black dress. They were both beautiful women, but in front of the Black Dragon Sect leader, they were slightly inferior. It's been 10 years. We meet again here. The leader of the Black Dragon Sect spoke softly. She swept her gaze across and took in the expressions of everyone present. Her voice was abnormally cold and arrogant, with a strange magical power. When people heard it, they would feel their minds calm down and their desires would vanish. They would also feel ashamed of their inferiority. The Wan Xin sect should be almost here. Old Freak Tianhua said. Haha, I didn't expect everyone to be here. Today, the Wan Xin sect is late. Sorry. A voice sounded in the surrounding water. Then, Xia Pingan saw a huge metal ball fall from the sky above the canyon. The ball opened, and an old man came out with 6 sorcerers in the white sorcerer robes of the Wan Xin sect. Is everyone here? Another voice sounded. Following this voice, Xia Pingan saw a golden door appear in front of everyone. The golden door opened, and an old man with a horsetail whisk and a long sword on his back came out with more than 10 people. As soon as these people arrived, the originally quiet bottom of the water became lively, but there were also undercurrents. Chapter 4:16. The people in front of him, starting from Supreme Mingi to the old man, were definitely famous figures in the god-slaying insect realm. Xia Pingon had thought that only he, Mengziki and Renju would enter the fallen god's land this time. He did not expect so many people to come. Old Weirdo Tianhua brought 7 people, Black Dragon Sect Master brought 2 people, Wanshin Sect 6 people, and the old man brought 13 people. In total, there were 31 people who entered the fallen god's land this time. Xia Pingon quietly sized up the old man from Wanshin Sect. The old man had a thin face and looked somewhat refined. Looking at the old man's clothes, Xia Pingon could not identify the old man's identity. Xia Pingon did not know who he was either. However, since the old man could appear here, there was no doubt that he was definitely an expert in the Nine Suns realm and had a high status in Wanshin Sect. The 6 people behind the old man, 4 men and 2 women, should be the official disciples of the Wanshin Sect. Judging from their temperament, those who could become disciples of the Wanshin Sect were all well-deserved ruthless characters, the elites of the elites. Xia Pingon was also a member of Wanshin Sect. Seeing the official army of Wanshin Sect on this occasion, Xia Pingon's mood was slightly complicated. Should I reveal my identity and establish a relationship with the old man? Xia Pingon muttered this question in his heart. Just as Xia Pingon was sizing up the team of Wanshin Sect, the old man who brought the 6 disciples of Wanshin Sect here suddenly turned his eyes to Xia Pingon. After exchanging glances with Xia Pingon, the old man's eyes suddenly lit up. The old man's eyes were so sharp that Xia Pingon hurriedly avoided his gaze. Everyone is here, right? If you don't have anything else to say, then let's start. We'll follow the usual rules. We'll settle our grudges in the land of the deceased gods. The people you've brought will depend on their own abilities. We won't blame anyone for their death. After they come out, we'll let bygones be bygones. Old Freak Tianhua chuckled as he glanced at the last old man who walked out of the golden door with a horsetail whisk and a longsword on his back. He clicked his tongue and said, Immortal Wuchen has really put in a lot of effort this time. You actually brought 13 people this time. Impressive, impressive. How many people I can bring is my own ability. If you don't like it, you can bring them too. What does it have to do with you, old monster Tianhua? The old man with the horsetail whisk rolled his eyes as he sneered at those people behind old Freak Tianhua. Last time, some people that I brought here were killed inside. I know who did that. Don't blame me for being impolite this time. Hearing Immortal Wuchen's words, old Freak Tianhua narrowed his eyes and sneered. It seemed that they were not on good terms. Ahem, if there's nothing else, let's get started, Immortal Mingi said as he took out a golden token. Wait, I have one more thing to say. The old man with the Wanshin Sect opened his mouth. He stared at Immortal Mingi and said, Immortal Mingi, you and our Wanshin Sect have always minded our own business. But don't you think you've gone too far this time? What do you mean, elderly? Immortal Mingi asked. It turns out that the old man is an elder of the Wanshin Sect. No wonder, Xia Pingon said in his heart. Elderly suddenly pointed at Xia Pingon and said calmly, Immortal Mingi, this man is a disciple of our Wanshin Sect. His name is Long Huan. What do you mean by capturing a disciple of our Wanshin Sect to work for you in the land of the deceased gods? Are you trying to bully our Wanshin Sect? Hearing Elder Li's words, everyone's eyes turned to Xia Pingon, who was not the focus of attention. The Black Dragon Sect Master, Old Freak Tianhua and Immortal Wuchen all looked interested. Capturing a disciple of the Wanshin Sect to work for him in front of an elder of the Wanshin Sect was a slap to the Wanshin Sect's face. Old Freak Tianhua laughed and added fuel to the fire. Immortal Mingi is really powerful. You even captured a disciple of the Wan Shin sect. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Xia Pingan was also stunned. He was just an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect. How did Elder Li know him and even know his name? It was too magical. Immortal Mingi looked at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan spread out his hands innocently. He did not contact anyone of the Wan Shin sect just now. Immortal Mingi was right next to him. His skills could not be hidden from Immortal Mingi. That's right. Long Huan is an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect, but doesn't the Wan Shin sect usually ignore the grudges of outer disciples? Why didn't the Wan Shin sect jump out when he was being hunted down? Why? Are you trying to pick a fight with me? Immortal Mingi rolled his triangular eyes and sneered. His attitude was very tough. Although your Wan Shin sect is big, it's impossible for you to make trouble for me. If you're not convinced, let's fight right here. Long Huan is not an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect. He is an official disciple, Elder Li said calmly. Some time ago, the 9 sons of Yundao came to the Immortal City and reported to the Wan Shin sect. An outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect, Long Huan, was looking for the soul-stabilizing pearl in the Immortal Sea and was chased by the Sea King Association. After understanding the situation, the Immortal City immediately decided to accept Long Huan as an official disciple and sent an ultimatum to the Sea King Association. After receiving the ultimatum, the head of the Sea King Association, Qi Pingzhang, personally came to the Immortal City to apologize. These days, our Wan Shin sect has sent people to the Immortal Sea to search for Long Huan. We did not expect Immortal Mingi to be with you. Tell me, should I interfere in this matter? Do you want me to give the Wan Shin sect a reason? Hearing Elder Li's reasonable words, Immortal Mingi was stunned. If Xia Pingan was an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect, and the Wan Shin sect dared to find trouble with him, he would definitely not let it go. At most, he would fight to the death, and everyone would go their separate ways. He was not afraid of the Wan Shin sect. However, once Xia Pingan became an official disciple of the Wan Shin sect, he would be riding on the head of the Wan Shin sect. If he offended the Wan Shin sect, the Wan Shin sect would definitely not let it go. The Wan Shin sect did not only have elderly, it was a powerful organization with demigod experts. Isn't Long Huan an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect? Why did he become an official disciple after being hunted down? Elder Li calmly explained, because Long Huan mastered the soul-splitting secret technique and can forge soul tools. Our Wan Shin sect is currently lacking talents in this field. Therefore, after the 9 sons of the Cloud Island came to the Immortal City and explained Long Huan's situation, our Wan Shin sect decided to accept Long Huan as an official disciple and take over his troubles and grudges. The 9 sons of the Cloud Island came to the Immortal City on the night Long Huan was hunted down by the Sea King Association. The Immortal City also listed Long Huan as an official disciple on the same day and sent an ultimatum to the Sea King Association. Therefore, the Wan Shin sect can ignore Long Huan's status as an outer disciple of the Wan Shin sect. However, when you met him, he was already an official disciple of the Wan Shin sect. This matter is not directed at you, but Immortal Mingi. The Wan Shin sect must take care of Long Huan's matter. This change was too bizarre. Xia Pingan was dumbfounded. He did not expect himself to become an official disciple of the Wan Shin sect. Feng Liu and Yundao Jiuzi were indeed good friends. They couldn't afford to offend the Sea King Society, so they went straight to the Immortal City to ask for reinforcements. When the 10,000 deities sect heard that there was an outer sect disciple who knew the soul-splitting secret technique and had found a soul-anchoring pearl that could refine a soul tool at any time, they immediately made Feng Liu an official disciple. That was the gist of the matter. The twists and turns of the road led back to the Wan Shin sect. Lord Mingi's expression changed. His eyes flashed for a moment before he suddenly turned his head to look at Xia Pingon and asked, "You know the soul-splitting secret technique and can forge soul tools?" Xia Pingon nodded with an innocent face. "I was lucky enough to learn this skill. I found the soul-anchoring pearl for myself." "Why didn't you say so earlier?" "Senior, you didn't ask." Lord Mingi almost vomited blood. At this moment, the Wan Shin sect was in the right, but he was unwilling to send Xia Pingon over. However, if he completely fell out with the Wan Shin sect because of Xia Pingon, he would be targeted by a bunch of lunatics from the Wan Shin sect. They would not rest until one of them was dead, and he would collapse. This was a torment for Lord Mingi. He could neither keep Xia Pingon nor send Xia Pingon away. Lord Mingi's expression changed for a long time before he flew into a rage out of humiliation. He clenched his teeth and flipped the table. "Fine, I won't care about Long Huan. Since he's a member of the Wan Shin sect, it has nothing to do with me. But I won't participate in today's gathering. You can do whatever you want, but I won't do it. Nobody can enter, nobody can play." Saying this, Immortal Mingi moved his hand and put away the golden token. Then, he pointed at Xia Pingon. Xia Pingon felt an itch in his throat. He opened his mouth, and the poisonous soul-seizing insect turned into a golden light and flew out of his mouth, landing on Immortal Mingi's hand. Immortal Mingi put away the poisonous soul-seizing insect and turned around to leave with Meng Ziki and Rinju. This time, it was the other's turn to be dumbfounded. "Wait," Lord Dustless hurriedly said. "If Lord Mingi leaves, the token of the land of the fallen gods will be missing. How can we enter?" That's right. If you leave, we'll have to wait another 10 years before we can come again," Old Weirdo Tianhua said hurriedly. Immortal Mingi straightened his neck and sneered with an unhappy look. "I don't care. That token belongs to me. I can use it however I want. I'm not prepared this time, so I won't go there. I quit. You can do whatever you want. Anyway, I won't play this time. If you want to keep me here, you can have a try. If anyone dares to make a move, I will fight him to the death." Chapter 4:17. Elder Li and the Black Dragon sect master both frowned. If Lord Mingi was determined to leave, no one here could stop him. However, if he left, they would miss this opportunity to enter the Fallen God's land and their trip would be in vain. The Fallen God's land was not a place that could be entered at any time. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait another 10 years for the next one. Ahem, seniors, please listen to me. Seeing the deadlock, Xia Pingon finally opened his mouth. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Xia Pingon. Xia Pingon first bowed to Elderly. "Long Huan greets Elderly. Today's matter happened because of me. If you can't enter the Fallen God's land because of me, I'll feel very uneasy. I have an idea. If Elderly agrees, I believe that Lord Mingi will also stay. Then, we won't have to come in vain." Elderly of the Wan Shin sect was interested in Xia Pingon. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Oh, what idea do you have? Let's hear it." "Lord Mingi saved me when I was chased by the Sea King Association. At that time, Lord Mingi didn't know that I had been accepted as an official disciple of the Wan Shin sect. I didn't know that either, so I promised Lord Mingi to help him enter the Fallen God's land. Lord Mingi prepared a lot of things for me which benefited me a lot. If Elderly agrees, I want to continue to help Lord Mingi to enter the Fallen God's land as an individual and fulfill my promise. In this way, Lord Mingi will also stay." Hearing Xia Pingon's words, everyone was stunned, including Lord Mingi. Lord Mingi turned his head and looked at Xia Pingon. He didn't expect that Xia Pingon would say something like this at this moment and be willing to enter the Fallen God's land for him. Elderly of the Wan Shin sect frowned slightly and said, "Do you know that it's very dangerous to enter the Fallen God's land? You may not be able to come out alive. I know, but I've promised Senior Mingy before, and I've also received Senior Mingy's favor. So, no matter how dangerous it is, I'm willing to go in and try," Xia Pingan said generously. Just this sentence alone made the surrounding people look at him in a different light. Since he kept his promise, they could see some of his character. "Elderly, what are you thinking about? Agree. If you don't agree, then we'll have come here for nothing." Old Monster Tianhua grumbled from the side. "Elderly, if he enters the land of the fallen gods, my 2 disciples will definitely not attack him. If others attack him, my Black Dragon Sect's disciples will definitely not stand idly by as long as they are on the side," the outrageously beautiful Black Dragon Sect master said softly. "Ha ha ha, the people I brought wouldn't mess around." Old Monster Tianhua chuckled. His eyes narrowed into slits, making him look somewhat mysterious. The pressure on the scene shifted to Elder Li's shoulders in an instant. Elder Li deliberated for a while. If he didn't agree, then this trip to the Wanshen sect would have been in vain, and there would be a lot of trouble in the future. After thinking for a while, he finally nodded. "All right, Long Huan's action this time is a personal matter between him and Supreme Mingy. No matter what he obtains from the land of the fallen gods, the Wanshen sect will not ask about it. We'll talk about it after he comes out." As Elder Li spoke, he turned his head and moved his lips slightly. It seemed that he was saying something to the 6 disciples of the Wanshen sect behind him, but the others couldn't hear it. Supreme Mingy, who was originally unhappy, finally relaxed. He glanced at Xia Pingan and said slowly, "You don't have to go in. Once you go in, it's hard to say whether you'll be lucky or inauspicious. If you want to come out, you'll have to wait 7 days. Senior, thank you for taking care of me these days. I still keep my promise to you." Supreme Mingy looked deeply at Xia Pingan and nodded. He didn't say anything else, which meant that he had agreed. "In that case, let's get started." The leader of the Black Dragon sect opened her mouth again. She moved her hand and a golden token appeared in her hand. She directly threw the token over her head. Then, a ray of brilliance shot from the token into the dilapidated divine palace. Seeing this, the others didn't delay. Supreme Mingy, Old Weirdo Tianhua, Supreme Dustless and Elder Li of the Wanshen sect each took out a similar golden token. They let the tokens float in the air, and each of them shot a ray of brilliance into the divine palace. 5 rays of brilliance converged in the middle of the divine palace. Then, under everyone's eyes, a 30-meter-high bronze door suddenly appeared between the 2 collapsed stone pillars in the middle of the divine palace. The door slowly opened, revealing a gray fog behind it. Without any instructions, the 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon sect flew gracefully toward the door. The 7 men in red robes behind Old Weirdo Tianhua were not slow either. They flew up at the same time and flew toward the bronze door. Then, the people of the Wanshen sect and Supreme Dustless also flew toward the door. Xia Pingan, Mengziki and Renju followed closely behind. The 3 groups of people flew into the bronze door almost one after another. After everyone flew in, Supreme Mingy, the leader of the Black Dragon sect, and the others withdrew their tokens. The bronze door in the divine palace disappeared. After Xia Pingan flew into the door, he felt as if he had fallen into a whirlpool with a huge suction force. After a moment of dizziness, his eyes suddenly opened up. What appeared in front of him and the others was a huge divine palace under the water. Judging from the water pressure on the water shield on his body, the shrine was about 10,000 meters deep. The water pressure was very strong, and the water shield consumed a lot of divine power. The sculptures around the shrine were all male mermen holding tridents. They stood at the open door of the divine palace. The door of the divine palace was open, and at the far end of the divine palace, there was a bright exit. Inside the divine palace, there were many mermen swimming around. The mermen swimming in the temple had bronze metallic light flashing all over their bodies. If one looked carefully, they would discover that these mermen were not mermen, but some kind of powerful metal puppet. This was the first test to enter the land of the fallen god. After entering the divine palace, one could not use divine power and summoning technique. One could only rely on physical strength to break through the metal puppets of the mermen in the divine palace. In order to pass through the divine palace, one had to destroy 3 mermen puppets. This was also the reason why true monarch Nether River wanted Xia Pingon to eat the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal. If he did not eat the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal, he would not be able to pass this test. While Xia Pingon was sizing up the divine palace in front of him, the 7 demonic red-robed guards had already rushed in. Then, the mermen in the divine palace were like sharks that smelled blood. They immediately surrounded them, and a fierce battle began. Once they entered the divine palace, the water shield on the 7 people disappeared instantly. They could only rely on their physical strength to fight with the merman puppet. In the next second, the 2 female disciples of Black Dragon sect also entered. Then, it was the 13 people brought by true monarch Wuchen. As soon as these people entered, mermaid puppets immediately surrounded them. The tridents in the hands of these mermaid puppets didn't hold back as they ruthlessly stabbed towards these people. "Brother Long, let's go together." Mengziki and Renju walked over and said to Xia Pingon, "Ahem, you go first. I'll go in later." Xia Pingon shook his head. Mengziki and Renju glanced at each other, and then looked at the 6 disciples of Wan Shin sect. Without saying anything, they directly rushed into the divine palace and fought with the merman puppets. After the others left, a man among the 6 disciples of Wan Shin sect walked towards Xia Pingon. The man was tall and handsome, with long eyebrows. He was wearing a white robe and his whole body seemed to be glowing. "Junior brother Long Huan, I'm Chu Itong. Elderly just told us to take care of you outside. You can follow us." "Thank you, senior brother Chu. You go first. I'm not feeling well. My stomach hurts. I'll take a rest. I'll go in later." Xia Pingon touched his stomach and said. That Chu Itong frowned slightly, but he did not insist. Probably because he felt that Xia Pingon did not know how to appreciate favors. His expression turned indifferent as he nodded. "If you encounter any danger, you can come and find us." "Okay, thank you, senior brother." Chu Itong turned around and waved his hand. He led the other disciples of Wan Shin sect into the divine palace. In fact, in just a short while, the 2 women from the Black Dragon Gate each wielded a sword. They were powerful and had already killed 3 mermaid puppets each. They were the first to pass through the main hall. The others also passed the test one after another and flew out of the divine palace through the door on the opposite side of the divine palace. After those people left, the fragments of the merman puppets in the divine palace automatically combined and repaired themselves, turning back into mermen. This divine palace was a one-way passage. Once you stepped through the door in front of you, you could not come out. After everyone left, Xia Pingon slowly took out a bathtub from his space warehouse. He added some water in the bathtub and poured the divine spring of the 6th sun realm into the bathtub. When the water in the bathtub changed color, he calmly took off his clothes and soaked in it comfortably. Xia Pingon's secret mandala's divine power had reached 6,988 points after fusing with the 2 assassin realm pearls. He only needed to soak in the divine spring of the 6th sun realm to officially advance to the 6th sun realm. Previously, it was inconvenient for him to advance on the island. If he had advanced at that time and true Lord Mingi discovered that he was a fake 6th sun realm summoner, it might have caused a lot of trouble. Therefore, Xia Pingon had been waiting patiently. Now that he had entered the land of the fallen gods, it was a good opportunity to advance to the 6th sun realm. There was danger everywhere, but no one outside knew about it. Xia Pingon had stayed until the end because he wanted to soak in the divine spring and officially advance to the Sixth Sun realm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.